Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel.
All right. Well, before we get started, because we have an episode today for you, absolutely, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that our viewership has gone up in recent time. And perhaps that's because we started with the DC movies from Zack Snyder as we're in the middle of his filmography right now, actually getting towards the end of his current filmography.
Yep.
And the viewership has gone up, and we really appreciate that. But what would really help us is if you guys haven't already done so, if you could give us a like, a share, and a subscribe, especially a subscribe, because the higher the subscriptions, the more that'll open us up to a wider audience when people go to search certain things and such. And it's just going to help us out. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate you viewing. But what would help us even more is if you gave us a like, share, or subscribe. I would
Oh,
really
yeah.
appreciate that, guys. We would really appreciate it. Excuse me. And it's really easy, too. If you look at it, we have the watermark in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Just go ahead over there and give that a click, and we'll be good to go. So thank you so much, folks. Okay. We are still doing the filmography of the boss, Zack Snyder. We have gone through almost all of his movies, but right now we're in the quote unquote DCEU trilogy that he did. And
Mm-hmm.
we've already done Man of Steel. We've already done Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Ultimate Edition. And now we are here at Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yep, we're wearing the shirts.
Boom. Rocking the merch, yo.
I have the t-shirt on. Ricardo's got the hoodie over there.
I got the hoodie. I'm a hoodie guy. I like hoodies. And I got the
And
hoodie. It's got all the logos of the superheroes. I love it.
absolutely. I got the t-shirt that says associate producer on the back. It's really cool.
Yep.
And there is so much story that we can go into as far as this movie goes. And guess what? We are going to go into the story of this movie, but after we finish talking about it.
Yep.
So let's get started.
Let's get it in, man. Let's get it. I'm excited.
So Zack Snyder's Justice League was released on March 18th of 2021 on HBO
Mhm.
Max. And we got our opening here. It's a signature Snyder with some slow motion here. It's the very end of Batman v Superman. We see Superman dying, and it's different points of view from Lois, Wonder Woman, and Batman. And we see Superman screaming, and we don't know it yet, but his scream is echoing throughout the world, and it's awakening the mother boxes.
Oh, yeah.
And we get a glimpse of Victor Stone, who would eventually become Cyborg. We have Lex with the vision of Steppenwolf in the ship. We get a glimpse of Atlantis and Mara, and then we get Themyscira in the Amazon. So we're just getting a little preview of what we're going to be seeing during this movie.
That scene is so awesome, man. Because again, visually looks great, but just the echo. I love the
Yeah,
effect of the echo going through and everyone hearing it and being like, "Uh-oh." It's great.
right, right. It's kind of setting things up because the mother boxes are going to be a core component to this plot, and we need to
Mhm.
see where each of the mother boxes are located before we even get into it. So, because this movie was 4 hours, Zach Zach did us a favor by splitting it up all into separate parts so you could watch each part one at a time.
Yep.
And he split it up in 7 parts, gave them all titles, and that's how we're going to go through the movie for you folks so you can follow along.
Yep.
And we're going to do Cliff's Notes version with our commentary mixed in, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So, part 1, don't count on it, Batman. Bruce reveals he knows Arthur is Aquaman. He's in Iceland, and he asks Arthur to join, and he's offering him money. Arthur declines. You know, I'm not going to do it. And Batman's just pleading with him. Superman died, and he's like, exactly. Why would I want to join you?
Yep. He's very standoffish. He's like, I'm not about doing this, man.
Exactly. And what are your thoughts on that moment there? Because we're now getting introduced to these heroes that we saw in BVS, and now we're actually getting to see them, full force on the screen. Well, we have, of course, Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and then Ben Affleck's Batman, just face to face with him here.
Yep. If there's one thing that Jason Momoa has, it's screen presence, right?
Yeah,
And not only that, we already know Ben Affleck is a big guy, and it's so awesome that the very first hero he tries to reach out is someone who can match him physically, right? Like when you see someone physically, Batman is usually one of the most opposing people in the room, and now he's trying to pull in,
right,
Arthur, who's just as big as this guy, and they got that classic stare down. They're looking at each other, and I like how the town almost they understand the lore of the Aquaman, right? And they're
right,
all kind of in on this. And Jason's just like, it's not gonna happen. I love that Bruce, with his main superpower, he's rich, he's got his
right,
money, so he pulls the money out and goes, hey, I can do this for you and whatnot. And it at least opens a conversation. So I do like that they had a nice discussion and whatnot. And Batman's putting it all out on the table. Like
right,
there's no secret anymore. He's like, hey, Batman,
right,
need you. Let's go, Gotham. And then, Arthur even refers to it as an S hole, like, oh, that S hole, God, oh my God, you know what I
right,
mean? But I love it. And I love the fact that, I love that we have to earn it. Like Arthur was like,
right,
nah, I'm not, that isn't me. Because as we know, Arthur's still kind of split
right.
between humans and Atlanteans. So he's kind of just like, nah, this is really isn't my vibe. And he takes off. And yeah, and one thing I did want to bring up, and I didn't want to forget, one thing I thought was really, really cool about that scene was Zach using that song. It's a traditional Icelandic song.
Right.
I cannot pronounce it to save my life.
It's okay.
But it's a very traditional Icelandic song, and I love that Zach gave that scene the time to let that culture be represented in such a
Yeah.
way, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for a lot of people, it was odd, but you know what? It just kind of set the mood for Arthur just locking himself away into this like village and no one would ever find him because he's not trying to be found. And
Nope.
it would make sense that it's so odd that these people kind of worship him almost.
Yeah.
So when all the women started singing that song, it kind of made sense. So,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
really cool. It kind of puts him like lore legend. You know what I mean? Just like,
exactly.
he comes, he brings food, and he's gone again. And they're singing a song. And again, look, I know it was weird to some people like, oh, it feels too long, but I'm like, can you imagine how it must have felt to the people that song represented? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm like, that's so cool to have that.
Absolutely. So, dressed as a bat, signature Jason
Yep.
Momoa, just,
Yep.
laughing.
Dressed like a bat.
Right. Jumps back in the water. We cut to Martha at the farm, Martha Kent. She's got the dog, and unfortunately, she's forced to move away. She can't afford it anymore. And then we cut to Lois visiting Superman's memorial. We learn she visits it every day. It would not be the last time we see Lois. Uh, Periodically, we get a cut of Lois, and it's just her still mourning the death of Superman. I looked it up. There's not an official timeline, but it's anywhere between 1 and 3 months since Superman died.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is still very fresh to her. Then we get a cut to London, and we hear this epic Wonder Woman music. It's different. It's not her theme song, but we just hear this choir of this woman singing, and it's just really cool. She's standing atop the building. It's a terrorist attack. She's using the lasso of truth for tell me who you are. What are you trying to do? And she stops the terrorist attack. And
Yeah.
it was really unique because we got to see her powers on display, possibly a little bit more than BVS. And while Diana is part God, and that's that we were told that many times, um, she doesn't have her skin is not invulnerable. So she has super strength, she has super speed. Um, she would later go on to learn how to fly, and we saw that, but not yet. But she has to use her bracers that are able to block the bullets. So she's able to block these bullets left and right. She does it with such speed that not one bullet hits the people. Um, she ends a lot of these guys in this
Bro,
scene.
there is no holding
Right.
back. And I look, she came into a room full of terrorists that were bent on killing men, women, and children.
Right.
And she said no. And she's just throwing dudes against a wall.
Yeah.
You're seeing the blood splatter.
Right.
She's taking these guys out with zero remorse. And I was kind of like, man, and I love how he utilized her speed. He showed how fast she is.
Right.
So you have that bullet time. She's kind of watching the bullet go by. Like you said, she's stopping all the bullets with her wrist gauntlets, going really, really fast.
Right.
I loved this. And I thought the scene was so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool how she stopped the bomb too. She saw that she didn't have enough time, so she jumped up as far as she could through the roof of the building, and then threw the suitcase with the bomb as far high as she could, and she prevented the explosion from happening within the building. And apparently, it would have been several blocks. Comes
Yeah.
back in, and then that's where we see the one man attempting to shoot everybody, and delivers the line, "I don't believe it." She says, "Believe it." And then she does the signature move with the bracers and the gauntlets and just blows this dude away, basically.
Yep. There's nothing left of this guy when that's over. Like, just completely gone.
And I like how you bring this up a lot. People were really upset because now we're openly seeing Wonder Woman kill people. And who are these people, Ricardo?
These are terrorists.
Right.
That's what they are. Their whole gimmick is killing. Listen, and we just said it, the bomb was gone, and this guy said, "Man, you guys took the bomb away. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna shoot all these kids."
Right.
Look, man, I understand I understand there is a judicial system in place, but we have to understand Diana is a warrior who has killed, and she will continue to kill. She's killed things from other planets before. She said this, you know what I mean? Right. So I have no remorse for a terrorist. That's just me. I'm just putting it out there. But it comes back to a soft moment right after, right? She takes out the guy, and she has a conversation with a young child.
Yeah, I like it. And that's cool because we get to see both sides. Now we get to see the love, the gentleness, which is a key component of the Wonder Woman character. And she leans down. The little girl says, "Can I be like you someday?" And Wonder Woman says, "You can be whatever you want to be," and delivers this just bright smile.
Such a good line, because
it's beautiful,
especially after everything everyone has been through in that moment, like the fear, the anxiety, the tension, everything. And for that little girl to see something so hopeful and positive in that moment, and she's just like, "Oh, can I be like you?" And she says, "You can be anything you want." And I'm like, it's so good.
So then we cut to Themyscira, and we see the mother box and Themyscira waking up, and they're ready, they're guarding, because they're in the temple, and Steppenwolf with all the parademons makes his entrance. And we get to see the Amazons full force, just seeing them work as a unit in an epic battle against Steppenwolf. For me, a highlight was seeing the bodybuilders with all their amazing muscles, and because they're trying to seal the temple, and they use these big hammers to do it, and hitting away the foundations. And she makes it out, but he's just coming at people left and right. And I enjoyed seeing the Amazons just knowing that they may or may not end up getting hit or killed. Still, the mission was to get the mother box away from him. He cannot get this mother box. So, they're using the arrows, they're throwing horses, the whole deal. Queen Hippolyta just going hard for this entire scene. Connie Nielsen, shout out to her.
Hippolyta, she gives the line. She goes, "Show them your fear."
Yeah.
And all the Amazons at Themyscira say in unison, "We have no fear."
Epic.
Just hits, man. I'm telling you, this whole sequence is great. Like you said, they understand that their main motivation is just keep the box away from Steppenwolf.
Right.
Many of them are willingly giving their lives without any hesitation, just secure the box. And it was really cool. Really, really cool scene.
Absolutely. I had a little bit of takeaway from this. It's just anytime I go to Themyscira, I want to see more of the Amazons.
Yes.
I just want more of them and that culture. And there's so many different things that we can get into.
Yes.
They're just their relationships with each other as friends. How they feel about romantic relationships, because it's only women, and then we kind of got a glimpse of them seeing a man for the first time when Steve Trevor went there. But we're looking at how many years and years where no man stepped foot in the island. So there's some things there. what does their daily culture look like? You know, when do they
Yeah.
eat? When do they train? Like, there's so many different things that we could get into there. So I thought about that. And I got to give a shout out to Zach for allowing these women that worked so hard on their physiques to show off their
Yes.
physiques, the ones that were bodybuilders or fitness minded. And
Yep.
I know some people had issues with that, and that's fine. You're allowed to have issues with that. But, and I'm speaking for you when I say this, as two people that have dedicated a huge chunk of their lives to fitness, we
Mhm.
appreciated this, that
I
those women got to
I
show off their physiques.
I loved it because it takes come on, we both know it takes a lot of work and dedication.
Correct.
A lot of work. And especially like getting ready for a film, I'm sure they went even harder. I'm sure they
Right.
did everything they had to do. They trained for hours. They want to look great. And again, Zach has always had an appreciation for the human anatomy and the human body.
Right.
And to show that work that people put in. So in that scene where they've got the giant boulders and they're breaking the pillars, and then you have those two that are holding up the door as it's falling, and they're in that squat, and you just see their abs and their muscle and their
Oh, man,
striations, and
so
I'm like,
good.
yo,
And
I'm like,
he let them grunt, like, it
yeah,
was
it was
awesome.
it was so good. And I was very happy to read that the actors who played the Amazons were also very excited and
Yeah.
very happy about being able to show off the physique they worked so hard for. So man, they, like you said, I want to go back to Themyscira.
Yeah.
I want to go back ASAP. I want to learn about the culture. I want to know, how long are they training?
Right.
What are they doing when they're not
Well,
training? Like, I want to get all that.
right, right. I mean, there's a show planned right now for the new DCU, so we'll
Yep.
see if we get to see any people we know. We'll see what happens. And and that's the thing about the muscular Amazons was, while we saw some of them in Wonder Woman,
Mhm.
and you know, we saw them, but up until now, it had mostly been, it was a mix, you know, and
Yeah.
I like that too. It was women of all shapes and sizes, just displaying all the physiques of the women, but they're all warriors. It didn't matter what their physiques look like. But for one moment, Zach said, I want to showcase some bodybuilder women, and he did so. So I thought that was awesome. So we're here at part 2, The Age of Heroes.
Yeah.
And we start off with Victor Stone and Silas just introducing us to them and their relationship with one another. And it's very strained, unfortunately. We cut to the ancient fire being lit, and it's on Themyscira. They shoot the arrow, and apparently it travels so far that it hits a place where Wonder Woman's able to see it in our world outside of
Yep.
Themyscira. And Hippolyta's just counting on it. She'll see it, you know.
Yeah.
So Diana does see it. She goes to that location. She goes down within that location there, and she sees drawings on the wall of the mother boxes and Steppenwolf and such. And there's just this look of concern on her face. We cut to Arthur saving a sailor,
Mhm.
and as he's leaving, he has an interaction with Volko, William Dafoe,
Yes.
and he's pleading up with him to come to, to return to Atlantis because of what's happening with the mother box down there. And obviously, Arthur, it's just, we're getting a glimpse into this story now where Arthur's not trying to spend too much time in Atlantis because there's a whole bunch of
Nope.
stuff going on down there, and he's back and forth between the two, but he feels more comfortable being on the surface. He's not trying to take up the mantle of whatever they're trying to do for him down there.
Yep.
So
It's funny because in this scene, and I know this caught a little bit of flack from people. I actually really enjoyed it. Was the air bubble that they use an air
yeah,
bubble
it
to
was the first time we
communicate
saw that.
underwater.
Right.
And at first I was like, oh, that's interesting. But then you realize the way that they communicate underwater, because Zach is such a stickler for like being really technical, and I love that about him, was that they would communicate underwater using like clicking sounds and certain things like
Right.
echolocation and whatnot. And I thought it was really cool. So the air bubble was kind of cool. I know some people are like, oh, I would much have preferred hearing them just be able to be vocal like they were in the
Right.
Aquaman movie. But for this movie, I did like the idea that, when they're underwater, they wouldn't be able to speak the way we
Yeah.
do. So I do like the clicks and sounds and stuff, and the air bubble was fine with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we cut to Steppenwolf contacting Dceu on Apocalypse, and he wants to tell him that he actually managed to get the first mother box
Mhm.
from the Amazons, and Desaad's chastising him,
Yeah.
and he's
He's
letting him know, like, okay, so what about the other two? You still owe Darkseid 50,000 worlds for your,
Yeah.
for all of your bumbling, and
Yeah.
we get the first glimpse of Steppenwolf just so eager to get the approval of Darkseid, and we see it in the eyes of the CGI.
Yes.
So
It's Zach does he does a really good thing. He did it with General Zod, and he did it with Steppenwolf, where like you don't agree with what he's doing, but you see his motivation and you understand it. And Steppenwolf just wants so badly to get back into the good graces of Darkseid that he's willing to do everything and anything he can. And Desaad is a hater, man. He does not like Steppy at all.
Right. Absolutely. And and then we see how much they worship Darkseid, because they close their conversation. Desaad says for Darkseid, Steppenwolf says for Darkseid. They worship this man. He is a god to them. So
Yep.
Diana visits Bruce to tell him about the mother boxes, because she saw the drawings on the wall. And there's a nice little interaction where Bruce says, I paid X amount of money, for the security system. And she said, well, you got your money's worth. It took me at least a minute to
Yeah.
to dismantle it. And I thought that was cool, because she didn't use her strength and her force. She used her mind.
Yep.
Diana is not just beauty and brawn, but she's brains as well. And I thought that was really
extremely
cool.
intelligent,
Yeah.
extremely intelligent. And I love how well-rounded Zach makes our heroes on
Right,
live screen.
exactly. And I mean, technically speaking, she's been around for thousands of years. So she's had these thousands of years to study different things.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was really cool. We then get an incredible, I wrote this down here, an incredible flashback of the war with Darkseid. And let's just go to the list here. The people involved with this are the old gods. We're talking about the Greek gods here.
Yes.
Zeus, Ares, and lanterns. So we get to see Green Lanterns for the first time in the DCEU. We see the Amazons, the Atlanteans, and Man, and they're all just battling with Darkseid and the Parademons. And we see Zeus with his lightning bolts just throwing.
Yep.
And the Green Lantern, he gets killed, and let's get a little sweaty here. The ring is supposed to go to the next owner. Darkseid reaches out, he almost gets it, and then the ring flies off. Yeah, and that would have been bad if he got it. And then the ring goes flying away. It's just chaos, and it was great. So please, your thoughts on that epic battle scene.
It was so great because it was, I'm not trying to be ironic, but it was like the entire world collectively of heroes became the Justice League at that moment.
Right.
Like they all they all came together, and I thought it was so cool seeing because you had Atlanteans, and then you had the women of Themyscira, and we find out later that there's kind of a rift between them at some point. So it was cool seeing them working alongside each other with human beings, and then seeing a Green Lantern, you know what I mean, was so cool because I didn't expect that at all, and it was great seeing that interaction with our young Darkseid and whatnot. But it was great, and again, we're dealing with gods, like actual gods, like Zeus showed up, you know what I mean? And Zeus is throwing lightning bolts, and Zeus is jacked beyond relief.
Oh my goodness,
this guy is humongous. This guy is humongous, and they're going to war. And I loved it because it was believable, because for those who know, like, Darkseid doesn't win this battle, and it's believable because it's never like, oh well, okay, the Justice League should have no problem beating Darkseid because look, he lost in this flashback, and I'm like, yeah, but he's going against and multiple armies at once, and he's going against literal gods. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to Artemis. She was the other god that was there. She's the bow and arrow.
Oh
yeah,
jacked.
Yeah, she was great. And Zeus, Sergi Constance, that's his name. So yeah, pretty cool moment there. So Earth wins.
Yep,
and yeah, absolutely. And Darkseid retreats, and then Diana explains that there was an agreement between the Amazons, Atlanteans, and Man. Each will watch over one of the mother boxes. And the issue is that they need to find the other mother boxes before Steppenwolf does it. We get a little line exchange here. Diana says, they said the age of heroes would never come again. And then Bruce, no, it has to. So next up, we have part 3, Beloved Mother, Beloved Son.
Ooh.
Oh, here we go. Bring on the feels.
We are at who I would say is the heart of the film. Like the heart. This is the heart, and we are there now.
Yeah. So, and you're talking about Cyborg, but before we get to Cyborg, Ray Fisher, your boy.
Yeah.
We got to get to Ezra Miller, and we are seeing now a bit of a day in the life of Ezra Miller. Excuse me, not Ezra Miller, Barry Allen. And he's going to a job interview. It's like a dog walker, dog sitter or something. And he crosses paths with Iris West. And for those of you that don't know, this is the person he eventually marries in the lore and in the comics. But there's a car accident outside with an 18-wheeler, and it hits, her car, and, there's a situation going on there. And we get a first time slow motion sequence showcasing Barry's powers. And the song is called Song to the Siren. This is beautiful.
What a choice.
Yeah.
What a choice. What a song choice, because you could have seen the scene. We've seen speedster scenes in other movies where it's very fun music, it could be very chaotic music, and this just went in a completely different direction. And I remember the first time I saw it, and I don't know why, but I was like, why am I getting choked up for this? And it was the song choice. It's because of the song choice in itself, because music can affect our emotions very differently. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm getting pretty emotional. I was like, why am I getting emotional? And just seeing how unique his speed was, and just him doing a shift just completely destroyed his sneakers, and just a tap on the glass, and it just just completely explodes. And the song choice works so well because essentially it's almost as if we're getting a metaphor for the love at first sight kind of deal, right? Like he's like, you get that song choice and it's sweet and it's beautiful, and as he's making eye contact with her, he's kind of blown away by Iris and whatnot. And I love that, again, Zack understood physics so that Barry has to be extremely gentle when he's maneuvering her, because too much pressure, too much force could launch her, could break her arm, could break any type of bone in her body. So I love that as the song's playing, he grabs a hot dog for the dogs back at the pet shop, but he slowly just like legitimately maybe just the tip of his 2 fingers on each hand and just kind of guiding her down. And with the song choice, it's just, I don't know why, it's such a beautiful scene. I don't know what encouraged him to use that song choice, but I thought it was a great choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was one soft moment where he moved her hair out of her face, and because he wanted to see her face, or whatever reason, it was a choice, obviously. And he does this thing where he crosses her arms, and he's being very careful, and in a way he's just being respectful that he doesn't touch her inappropriately. I felt like that's what he was doing. Now, some people felt he touched her inappropriately anyway. I disagree with those people.
Yeah, some people thought this was too much. Like, they were like, as soon as he did that, they were like red flag. They were like, red flag.
Yeah, so that's a take that I will not go into, but I will let you know that I disagree with that take, because I felt this with the way he was crossing her arms and then laying her down gently, and making sure not to hurt her. It was a beautiful sequence, and obviously he reveals himself at this point when we get back to real time, and he races away so she doesn't figure it out. But who's to say she doesn't figure it out eventually anyway?
Yeah, she will.
So he goes back into the shop, little haha moment with the hot dog and such. He visits his father in jail, Henry Allen, played by none other than Billy Crudup, Dr. Manhattan.
I was so happy to see him again.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan, and we find out that he was framed for the murder of Nora Allen, Barry's mother. And we're just getting another glimpse into a parent and child relationship here, something Zack loves doing in his movies here. And and he's just vowing to get his father out. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna get you out. Then we get our flashback of Victor Stone's life before the car accident.
Yes.
We're seeing him just play football, and I don't recall if it was high school or college. I want to say it was college.
Yeah.
It was Gotham, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
Gotham GCU, Gotham City University.
yeah, absolutely. So, he's just there, and he looks in the stands. He sees his mom, and just a disappointed look on his face. They just won the game, and his dad's not there yet again.
The absentee father.
Correct. They're in the car talking, and unfortunately, car accident happens, and his mother Eleanor, she dies, and Victor, he almost dies, and we
Yeah.
don't know how bad his injuries are until later on. But he loses a lot of his body. But his father
Yeah.
finds a way to keep him alive, and Silas drops the line, "I won't let you die." And this is all happening as a kind of like a flashback before we see present day of them talking again. And Victor plays the tape of Silas speaking, and now we get to see Victor's power. We get to see him learn how to fly for the first time with his suit. We get to find out that he is essentially the most powerful computer in the entire world. Yeah. Silas says the challenge will not be doing it. Excuse me. He says the challenge will not be doing it. It will be not doing it. And he helps a woman that's in need financially. Your girl Cam, and we
what
find
a
out Victor,
scene.
technological god. Yeah, please share.
What a scene, man. I've talked about this scene numerous times over and over again with many different people, where it's one of the most heroic scenes that I've seen in a
Yeah.
comic book film that did not rely on brute strength. It did not come down to a physical battle of wits. Nothing of the sort. It was just him doing an act of random kindness for someone who deserved it. And you have this waitress who is a single mother, and she's working really hard, and she's not able to pay the rent, and it's a horrible, sad situation. And he sees that, while you have the narration from his father saying he can do unstoppable, unspeakable things. He can do great things, like the power's in his hands, and it's up to him what he chooses to do with it. And I love that Victor, the one thing that he chooses to do is to pull a woman out of poverty. And it is a beautiful sentiment, and it is so heroic. And that one definitely made me tear up, because I feel like a lot of people can relate to being in a situation like that, with a single parent, and seeing how hard their parent is working to provide for them and whatnot, and just seeing that there was a hero to help lift them out of that, and seeing her break down at the machine with her kids and be overjoyed, and him kind of show a smirk for probably the first time as a cyborg. And it was really unique and special, and I absolutely adore that scene. It's one of the most beautiful scenes I've seen in the comic book film, and from a superhero. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, she's a waitress, and it's I wanted to get her exact name up. It's C. Amanda Maud, and I'm
Mhm.
assuming the C stands for Cam, because that's what she's known as online. So good stuff here. We move forward, and excuse me. Bruce visits Barry, because obviously he, we've already known they've been doing the research. He knows who these people are by now, and he wants to convince him to join the team, because now they know they need the team because of the mother box situation.
Mhm.
He says to him, "I know you have abilities." Barry's making all these excuses, and we get to see the Flash's abilities again.
Yes,
Bruce
we
throws
do.
that battering at him, and we go right back into that slow motion. And in that moment, no, he moves and just grabs, and it's a very simple line, but it's huge. "You're the Batman?"
He's a
Just
Batman. It's so good. And
and
I
there's
love
some
that.
nice music playing. Yeah, yeah.
I love that Bruce's response is just, "So you're fast." Like, that's it. Like, "So
Yeah.
you're fast."
Yeah. I feel like that's an oversimplification,
Yep.
so really fun moment. We get to hear him talk about the Speed Force a little bit to kind of
Mhm.
explain his abilities and such. Um, I guess we should drop the line here. He says, "So what are your abilities? What are your powers?" And I'm
Bruce,
rich.
Bruce, Bruce, without missing a beat, as they're sitting in this amazing car, as the
Right.
doors are coming down, he just, "I'm rich," and it's like
Right.
it's such a great line. It's
Yeah.
such a great line because obviously it's more than that, but it's such a great line of being a superpower.
Absolutely.
And I love their interaction. I also love in this scene, and it was done in post production. Was the banner, the what do you call it? The billboard
Mm.
for "You Are Not Alone"
Oh.
for suicide awareness and prevention. And
Oh,
I thought that
nice.
was real. I thought that was really, really cool that they incorporated that into the film, especially in a moment where Bruce is trying to find people to help him. And I love that
It's
little
good.
moment right there as they're driving away. It says, "You are not alone." I think that was really nice.
We shift to Diana meeting up with Victor, and I'm gonna get into how I felt about the scene a little bit here, but there's a Victor's being very standoffish because Victor is still dealing with everything. He's dealing with the
Yes.
death of his mother, with the fact that he's basically, in his eyes, a monster now.
Hmm.
He can't seem to forgive his father for one, the death of his mother, and two, turning him into this thing. And Diana's pleaded with him. She's being very soft with him, very loving, which is what Diana does. And she drops the line, "We need your help. The world does." And Victor says, "F the world."
F the world. That line
Woo!
is extremely hard. And I remember watching it being like, "Oh," like, kind of like
Yeah,
clutched my pearls a little bit. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh,"
right,
but he's in a place, man. He's in a place. Like, again, just going back to that scene where he did what he did for that woman with her bank account. The moment he walks away, there are two people in the street that immediately kind of shudder away from him. And it
right,
reminds him that he's still this monster, and he puts his hood up and walks away. So
right.
in reality, he's got a lot to be bitter about.
And, he's very cold, but Diana recognizes he's hurting.
Mhm.
And she says to him, "I've lost someone too," talking about Steve Trevor,
Yep.
and at this point, Wonder Woman 2017 had already been released. So this was supposed to be the next movie in line. Um, well, didn't get released until 4 years later, but it was supposed to be the next one in line.
Yeah.
And it's okay. We'll get to that. And she told him, "I shut myself off, but you met with me, so that lets me know you're working on it." And I just thought this was a really cool sequence with him being so cold and her being loving. And I want to call back to Wonder Woman 2017, where she says the infamous line, "It's not about deserve, it's about what you believe. And I believe in love." And all she did was try to
Yes.
show Victor compassion. And
Yeah.
that was really cool.
It was. It was really, and she was right. She had a point. The fact that he was there meeting with her
Right.
said a lot about where he was going mentally.
Absolutely. So we get Steppenwolf and the Parademons. They now visit Atlantis because they're trying to get the second Mother Box. And we get a battle with Mara. And she does the air bubble, and then she starts sucking the water out of his face.
It's
It turns into
Mara's
blood. It turns into blood
Ma-
at one point.
Mara so BA
Yeah,
that like if he did not let go of her, she had him dead to rights.
absolutely.
Like, because she can pull all the liquid from your body, and she's pulling the liquid from his body, and the blood is coming out with it. And as soon as that blood started coming, he said, "Oh," and he just dumped her, because if he didn't let go, she had him, man. I loved that. I loved seeing that. I think Mara's awesome.
Yeah,
So it was so cool seeing her like, "Yeah, I'm ready to throw down with Steppenwolf."
yeah, absolutely. And we have a choice here from Amber Heard to have a British accent. Uh, I don't know if that was her choice or Zach's choice, but
I don't know.
yeah, for whatever reason, that's the way she speaks here. Willem Dafoe didn't have one.
No, he did not.
So
I started, and it was funny because it was during the rewatch that I kind of tried to create a headcanon for myself.
mhm,
I was like, I said maybe they interact with humans every once in a while, and the humans she happens to interact with are British or
maybe
English. So I was like, I was trying to rationalize it because I'm like, oh, she has an accent, but other Atlanteans don't have an accent.
right.
And I was like, so
Right.
clearly
Yeah,
it was someone's choice to
right.
have
Or
it.
maybe there's some like divisions in Atlantis where each person has a
Yeah.
different accent, something like that,
Yeah. Because
But
to my understanding, the British accent or English accent, I'm not even entirely sure, is the right way to speak English. We just got our American
Right.
accents are just all over the place,
Right.
so apparently that's how English is supposed to sound. So I'll give her just that benefit,
Right.
that she's just saying everything correctly.
So we shift to, well, excuse me, we're still in the middle of this fight here. Aquaman saves her, and unfortunately, they're unable to prevent Steppenwolf from taking the mother box. He takes it, and she tries talking to him. He doesn't want to hear it, and we just get this continued theme of people running away from their past because it's going to lead to their potential destiny, and he's running from his because I don't want this mantle. I don't want my mother's legacy. The former queen of Atlantis. She dumped me on my father's doorstep. She left me. She left you. I'm leaving you too.
Yep.
So we are now here at part 4, Change Machine. So we have in Gotham, we have some people kidnapped by parademons, and we get to meet Gordon, J.K. Simmons.
Oh yeah.
And he calls Batman, and everyone shows up, even Cyborg.
Yep.
Even Cyborg, and Diana. Oh, you came.
Yep.
So
I loved seeing them slowly come together, and then Cyborg just rose up, and I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, this is their first team up. They go to Stryker's Island, and mind you, this kidnapping situation is because he knows the last mother box is being held by man, but he has knowledge that Silas Stone can lead him to it. So that's why they're doing this.
The scent of the mother boxes are on all of them there.
Yeah. They go to Stryker's Island, and this is the first time we see everybody team up. Wonder Woman is she's the only one that can take Steppenwolf on, so she's fighting him. Cyborg is helping with the parademons. Batman is helping getting the people out. Flash is kind of back and forth with his speed. It's a pretty cool, first team up with everybody. And once they get everybody out, they're underneath the harbor, flooding. Oh no, what's going to happen? Yay, Aquaman saves the day. Yep. And everyone's together for the first time. We get a vision of Steppenwolf, and he's seen a symbol on the ground, and he hits the ground, and then he realizes it's the anti-life equation. And now he gets to speak to Darkseid directly, because this is information Darkseid would want to know. Yep. Because if they have access to the anti-life equation, they can control the world population. So we have a little interaction between them. So now the Justice League, they're not they named that yet, but the group, they get together to discuss the mother box. Well, they're all out of costume at this point, so they're talking, and they're talking about what they're going to need to do. Some people are for this, some people are against it. This is a suicide mission, and it's just like Barry's like, I'm not going to say it, and can they possibly bring Superman back? Because he's the only one that could give them a chance. And we hear the Man of Steel music playing. We see
it's so good.
See the hologram of Superman, Henry Cavill, flying up there. Pretty awesome.
It's so good because Bruce Wayne.
That's okay.
is very adamant about doing this. Like he's the one that's most for it. And he's getting a little bit of pushback from Arthur and even from Diana to a degree. I'm like, are we sure? Are we sure? But Bruce is like, no, we have to do this. And I love that he's so in it. And there was a part of me that wondered if guilt is involved in any way for what happened, for misjudging Superman so much, that he's like, no, if we have an opportunity to bring him back, we need to bring him back for multiple reasons. One, he's probably the only one that can stop Steppenwolf and deal with the boxes, but there might be a small part of Bruce that's like, I made a mistake, and we got to get him back.
Absolutely. We shift to Martha Kent visiting Lois, who is still grieving. And as Martha Kent leaves, we see her shapeshift into the Martian Manhunter.
Bro.
And then back into Lennox. And apparently a fan theory ended up becoming true in this moment, that
Yup.
Harry Lennox was Martian Manhunter. Who knows if that was the plan all along? All we know is we got to see it.
I will, and look, I love it. I will go ahead and say that I don't think that was the plan since Man of Steel. I think it's one of those things that lined up really well.
Right.
And I actually appreciate it more that if Zach said, you know what, that's actually a really cool theory. I think I can implement that somewhere, and he did it. And I thought it was so cool. And I love the conversation because Swanwick is disguised as Martha, and his whole motivation is to just get Lois back out into the world because she shut
Right.
off the world. You know what I mean? She just completely shut off. So I love that Swanwick, goes in there as Martha and just tries to push her in the right direction. And then when Swanwick walks out, he turns into Martian Manhunter, which is a glorious design, just
Right.
amazing. Chef's kiss in live action. And as he turns back to Swanwick and he says, "Because the world needs you too, Lois." And I thought it was so cool to for us, the audience, to understand, like we always have, that Lois is super important. She's a part of this, and I love that he says the world needs you too. So I love that scene. That scene was great.
So now we're here at part 5, All the King's Horses. Barry and Victor have been tasked with getting Superman's body, so they're digging it up. And we get to see Barry and Victor interacting there. We see a little bit of Arthur and Diana just kind of discussing the history of their people, how they can't trust each other. Can we trust each other? That type of situation. Then everybody suits up in their costumes, uniforms, so to speak. They sneak into Star Labs to get access to the ship because they need the ship to bring Superman back in the same way that Lex was able to bring Zod back as Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're hoping that doesn't happen. The
Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing.
Again, there's some hesitation, but they're going through with it.
Right. So they're going to try to bring Superman back. This was like a recon mission almost because they snuck in. They didn't come in guns
Yes,
blazing.
yes. They snuck in, and I want to mention this so we don't forget. But I love the fact that Silas sees them come in, and he sees it's Victor leading. It's Victor leading Wonder Woman, Batman, and
Yeah.
it's in that moment that he kind of sees that, he always wanted Victor to be this. And it's a very quick moment, but he sees it, and Victor just kind of looks at him, and they share this moment. I thought that was such a super cool thing for him to see Victor leading the charge.
So we get to the Genesis chamber, and they can use the mother box to do this, but Cyborg explains it needs to be powered. And that's
Mhm.
when Barry reveals that, well, if I run fast enough, I can generate a force, electricity to charge the mother box to bring Superman back. So
Barry says, if that's still what we want to do, and again, Bruce, do it. Like,
every time,
do it. Go.
and when once it starts happening, like Arthur is like, we got to stop him. Nope, keep going, keep going. Like he's
Go.
just
Go.
relentless in the situation. Right before it happens, because we're getting the countdown for Barry to run in and charge the mother box. Cyborg gets a vision of the Nightmare timeline,
Yes, he
and
does.
we're seeing this timeline that was displayed in Batman v Superman. We're getting to see it again. We're going to see more of it. It's an evil Superman, and we see Superman with a body. It's not explained, but we know this. It's Lois. She's dead, and this is part of the steps that Darkseid was able to control Superman once he killed Lois. And he used footage because he couldn't get Henry for the reshoots, unfortunately, for this one
Yeah.
part in particular.
It's so
And
funny because the footage that he used was footage from Man of Steel,
yeah,
but one of the scenes, it was an alternate take of a scene that they shot from Man of Steel,
right.
which they didn't use in Man of Steel, but it was an alternate take from that movie, and they used it here, but you still can see it. You're like, oh, that's from there. They did what they had to do. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
We have these other scenes that were all CG. Well, I don't know if they were part of the research or not because they weren't really clear with how many people came back to do reshoots. And I don't believe Gal Gadot did, and I don't believe that Jason Momoa did. But we see these scenes of Wonder Woman dead
Yeah.
and the Amazons mourning her, with the with the coins over the eyes, and we see Darkseid stabbing Aquaman underwater,
Mm-hmm.
and then we see evil Superman flying with the cowl of Batman,
Yeah.
and the Justice League Hall of Justice is in shambles. We get a Green Lantern cameo, Kilowog. He's sitting there
Yeah.
dead.
Dead, missing a chunk from his side, my boy.
Yeah.
Just missing.
Absolutely. So we get back to the present here. And right before Superman comes back, we get one of the many shots of Lois it's been somber this entire time, every time we see her. And apparently, Swanwick, as Martha Kent, was able to talk some sense into her.
Mm-hmm.
And we see her going through a drawer, and it zooms in, and we see a pregnancy test.
Yes, we do.
And yeah, we get back to the Genesis chamber. They lower the body in. It's very somber. It's very respectful. We don't see his face fully, but we just see them lowering everything in. We see the picture of Jonathan Kent falling in the Genesis chamber too, because he was buried with it. And we get the countdown. Barry comes in. He hits him with the electricity, the mother box into the chamber. Superman comes back, flies up out of the ship, and he goes. And one of the first things we see is Lois actually see him.
Yeah.
She sees him flying up there.
The future has taken root.
Yes. Nice. Thank you. So he flies straight to the memorial, and it's not really explained here. They go into it a little bit, but as we know, we're going to get sweaty again here. Whenever you come back from the dead in comics lore, it takes some time before you regain your senses, and you don't always come back as the same person. This happens time and time again in the Lazarus Pit with the League of Assassins, but different situation here. We just saw in Batman v Superman. Now, that was an alteration between Zod's DNA and Lex's DNA, but when that thing came back, it was a complete monster.
Yeah.
So the League goes to the memorial because it's like he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he's at. And then they fight.
And when I tell you this scene is so exciting to me,
Yeah,
it's so because they're trying to talk to him, and poor Cyborg, he's getting scanned by Kal-El. He's getting scanned,
right.
so the defense system goes into effect,
Yeah,
and he can't stop it. And from that moment on, he opens a shot on Superman. He's trying so hard to stop it, and they're like, Victor, stop. He's like, I can't, and it just happens. And from that moment on, it's on, man. We're having a throwdown with these Justice League members, and it's so awesome.
yeah, it's great. There's a moment early on where they're all crowding him. Cyborg's got him in the middle, Aquaman on one side, Wonder Woman the other. Yeah. And then Flash, he's running. He's like, maybe I can do something, and we just see just this eyeball move.
The side eye was so good, because
Great
can you imagine the fear that Barry had? Because obviously up to this point, Barry has said numerous times that Barry was a big fan of Superman. He was a big fan of Superman. He's kind of a fanboy. And at this moment, he's like, oh my God, like, we kind of have to go toe to toe with this guy. It's okay. I'm going to use my speed. So Barry has never faced anything else on this planet up to this point in his life where something could be almost as fast or as fast. So at that very moment, just a side eye from Clark, Barry's face told the story. And I remember laughing and also being like, oh my God, I didn't take this into account. They're about to throw down. And it was so cool because at that point, Barry's just trying to avoid contact. Like, Superman is keeping up with him, but he can't get him. Like, he's barely missing here, barely missing there. He's swiping at Barry, doing everything he can. Barry even does, like, he tries to shove Superman, but in doing so, it just throws him back because of the sheer strength and force and momentum of Kal-El. Like, it's, man, that scene rules.
And I like it because as far as the lore goes, the Flash is the fastest man alive. He is. but they just let us know how good Superman is that he almost catches him. He didn't
Yeah, he
catch
was
him.
close. He didn't get him.
Almost caught him. Right.
Yep.
It's really cool. And for those of you wondering, in the comic books, whenever they've raced, it's almost always been a tie, or every now and then the Flash would win. Superman has never won. And I don't remember the actual comic book, but there's one moment where they're racing, and I think Superman says something like, oh, you never really beaten me. It's almost always been a tie. And and the Flash goes, Clark, that was for charity. And he
Yeah.
darts off and leaves him in the dust. It's like I could have always beaten you,
Yeah, Flash is the fastest, man.
Yeah, that might have been the first time he actually beat him, but up until then it was always like a tie. So I thought that was really cool. So, Wonder Woman's pleading with him with the lasso of truth. Remember who you are. Later on in the fight, like, she realizes she's one of the only ones that can stand up against him. Don't make me do this. They're headbutting each other. It's wild.
Such
It's
a
wild.
good fight.
Batman comes in because he can't stand toe to toe with him, obviously, but he's not fighting him because he did that already. He's using these gauntlets that he has that can absorb energy. He gets one with the heat vision. He gets another one with the heat vision. You don't have any more. So one more heat vision blast and he's dead.
Yep.
And Batman pleads with him. Clark, no. Clark, don't. The world needs you. Lois saves the day. And, we hear the Man of Steel music playing, and Clark he comes back to his senses a little bit, and she just holds him and says, let's just go.
Yeah.
And he goes away. Steppenwolf comes back for the mother box after, all this mess is happening. Silas Stone locks himself in the chamber, and unfortunately he gets killed, and Steppenwolf succeeds in getting the mother box.
He activated the mother box, which I was like, why would you do that?
Right.
But then you find out that he essentially made like a beacon, because it gets so hot that you can pick it up anywhere and they were able to track it. But yeah, he if you put that actor in a movie with technology, he is going to sacrifice himself for the world. Okay, he started with Skynet, and now he's doing it with mother boxes.
Yeah. So we're here at part 6, Something Darker. We have a reunion with Lois and Clark in Smallville, and it's just a gentle moment. We're on the farm, and she's trying to remind him who he is. He's trying to remember himself as well. We have a nice moment. He says, I'll take that as a yes. She says, what? The ring. She's wearing the ring that he would have given her. Martha rejoins. We get this nice moment of him hugging both of them. Yeah, very emotional moment. Very emotional moment. I get choked up when I see this. And these women are the 2 most important women to him, and they are his connection to humanity. And while he is not human, he has humanity, and that's what I took away from this moment here.
Martha killed me, man, because she comes in and she's obviously shocked. So she's got her hand over her mouth, and she's just like, is this real? And she's touching him. She's like, is this real? And he's just like, it's really me, Mom. It's really me. And they just embrace. And bro, like, I was already gone. I was like, you got me.
Bruce is discussing. Well, the team is all together now, and they're discussing what their next move is going to be, because they don't know what's going on with Superman right now. They're arguing. What are we going to do? Cyborg just lost his father, so he's dealing with that. Bruce is telling Diana about the dream that he had in Batman v Superman. And he was saying in the dream, Barry told him Lois is the key. And Diana surmises, well, she's the key to Superman. Every heart has one.
Yeah.
And we basically get references to the Nightmare timeline again. So Zack just calling back to those big moments in Batman v Superman. Superman is back on the ship, and he's reminded of the things Jor-El and Jonathan Kent said. So we have both his fathers speaking to him in voiceover form, and we get a shot of him in the black suit, and the Man of Steel theme is blasting. He flies off into outer space. We get a Christ pose.
Yep, every single time, man. Every single time.
And in the comic books, it's not explained here in the movie, but in the comic books, the black suit is a regeneration suit.
Mhm.
And he wore it when he came back to life after the Death of Superman storyline. And the regeneration suit is meant to absorb the rays of the sun so he can get his powers back again. So we
Yep.
can only assume that's what Zack did in that moment with the Christ pose again. So,
Yep.
um, so we get to see the League in action, trying to get to Steppenwolf and the mother boxes, and there's fighting parademons left and right. Just a lot of action sequences, just fun fan moments, so to speak.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Just great stuff everywhere.
Yeah. We shift back to Alfred and the line that was in the trailer. I assume you're Alfred. We see Superman in his suit, and he said you'd come back, talking about Bruce. Now let's hope you're not too late.
It was such a fanboy moment for me when he
Yeah.
just goes, Master Kent. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
why, dude. Like, when he calls him Master Kent, like, it just and Superman just kind of smiles. Like, he just kind of goes, and he goes, he said you'd come. And it's just, I don't know why, just hearing him say, you must be Alfred. And he goes, Master Kent. Like, I don't got me.
Alfred's so proper. I didn't really jot it down, but he calls people by their last name, their
I love it.
surname, as they say
Yeah,
in
I love
England.
it.
So
Master Kent. I loved it. It was great.
great. We get this epic final showdown with Steppenwolf and the three mother boxes, and Cyborg is trying to separate them because they're all trying to join together. If they join together, that's bad news because that's going to open the portal to Apocalypse. Darkseid's going to come in, anti-life equation, end of the world. It's going to be very bad. And just as the moment that Steppenwolf's about to hit Cyborg with the axe, and by the way, Diana, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, they're trying to fight him. Flash is trying to generate this speed again because he's trying to, help the situation with the mother box, and Batman's recon mission because he can't really fight hand to hand with these people, so everyone's
Batman is using a cannon. Like,
yeah.
it's so cool. Like, he's got a cannon. He's taking out all the
He's taking out
parademons.
parademons because that's what he can
Yep.
do. While
That's
they
what he can do. He's like,
so they focus on Steppenwolf.
yep.
At the very last second, the axe is about to hit Cyborg, and Superman shows up, and he blocks him. And what does he say? What does he say, Ricardo?
Not impressed.
Yeah.
And then he just does the slightest ice breath, just
yeah.
And it freezes the axe. He punches it shatters the pieces, and he gives him the Sparta kick. I love it.
Yeah. He starts beating down Steppenwolf to the point that once he gets him on the ground, it's like MMA style hammer fist to the head type deal. Just boom.
It's
boom,
the only time. It's the
boom.
only time I felt like, yo, man, I kind of feel bad for Steppy right now. Like, he's getting murked.
Yeah.
Like, Superman, again, one of Superman's greatest strength is his restraint, and he's not holding back here.
Yeah.
So he's just hitting him and hitting him and hitting him. And in between the hits, he's using heat vision. So it's heat vision, hit, heat vision, hit. Right. And I'm like, bro, I think you got him. But keep going. He's a bad guy. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. So Flash is outside trying to generate the speed to help out the situation and help break the mother boxes apart, because they need that energy. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen because he gets injured.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets injured. I think he gets hit by a laser by one of the parademons or something.
One of the parademons who's going to get Employee of the Year for that shot he's able to see because Barry's running in a circle. So he's just timing it. So he's just waiting for it, and he waits for it. And as soon as he sees it again, he estimates the time it's going to take for Barry to get in front of him, and he takes the shot and he shoots him and hits him right in the side. And Barry now has to stop and heal. But in that time, something bad is happening.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they fail.
Yeah.
And
yep.
It's the mother boxes join, a big explosion goes off. Apparently everybody around there dies.
The whole world explodes, my dude.
Yeah.
Like, everybody died.
And at this point, the Flash had already healed himself, and then he just puts his hand up, and we see now he's gonna go into the Speed Force.
Yep.
And we'll get into the lines that he says later on, but I got to break the one rule. I got to go fast. I have to reverse time, which is
Yeah.
one of the rules he doesn't want to break, but he has to. Very emotional moment.
Very,
And
very good.
he succeeds in reversing time. We get probably the greatest visual moment in the entire movie of him running and everything's going back into place that was blown away.
It was so insane to see. I
Yeah.
wish this was that scene where I really wish that my first time watching it would have been in a theater, because
Yeah.
seeing everything happen, and with every footstep that he's taking is essentially a big bang. It's creating a universe, and you see it and you hear it. It's boom, boom with every single step, and you see that he's so fast that the world is rebuilding behind him. Like, he's bringing the world with him, and he's going back in time through that through the Speed Force. And hey, look, it won Oscar cheer moment, okay, from
It
the
did.
Oscars last year. That scene is incredible, and I was so happy that Zack decided that he was just going to show how powerful the Flash alone could be, because
Absolutely.
what an unbelievable feat for a single character.
So, even to the point of bringing everybody back to life. So we see all of their atoms and organs and come back because
Yes.
he's able to succeed. He gets the energy into the mother boxes and they succeed in pulling everything apart. Now everyone can focus on Steppenwolf since the mother boxes did not join. And in the closing moments of the fight, Aquaman impales Steppenwolf. Superman punches him. The portal to Apocalypse is open at this point. And Wonder Woman comes in and, yeah, she decapitates him. We get a head rolling shot at the feet of Darkseid.
Yep.
And we get the shot of Dceu, Darkseid, and Granny Goodness. And
Yes.
this is a lot of lore here, Apocalypse. So
Mhm.
for the fans, this is a pretty sweaty moment for us to see this.
Yes. Yes.
And is this a glimpse into the future? Justice League 2, Justice League 3, what did he have planned? We know in the Nightmare timeline, Darkseid succeeds in coming down and turning Superman evil. So how much of this were we going to see? Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but Ava DuVernay was signed on to do the New Gods movie, and that might
Yeah, I
have
remember.
explained things a little bit more, because there's a lot of lore with the New Gods as well,
Yeah.
and that would have been really cool to go into that. Why is Darkseid so powerful? Why is Steppenwolf so powerful? Why are these people so powerful? So that would have been cool. When we get the infamous line from Darkseid, ready the Armada, we will use the old ways, because now he knows that the mother boxes are there. He knows the anti-life equation is there. It's like, we can't let this stop us. We will use the old ways. As well, it's not the end of the movie where we finally get that shot of the entire Justice League, everybody side by side: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg. It's really cool. Superman in the black suit. And now we're here at the epilogue, which is my favorite part of the whole movie. And we hear Cyborg. He overhears the recorded message from Silas, and he's telling him that he needs to be greater with his newfound abilities. And Bruce, Diane, and Alfred, they find this building where they plan to create the Hall of Justice. And big round table, 6 chairs right there, but room for more.
With room for more.
Yeah. Arthur hasn't decided to come back to Atlantis yet, but he's like, I need to go find my dad. Barry gets a job at Star Labs, making his father proud, and apparently this is his foot in the door to help get his father out of jail. Clark is helping Martha fix up the new home, and we get an exchange. We owe the bank money. Bruce, I bought the bank. So we get a line of congratulations. So it's almost like they're hinting at the fact that she's pregnant here.
Yeah, well, you see it.
Yeah.
She's carrying a baby basket
Right.
with things up the stairs, and I was like, there it is.
Yeah, just subtle. We don't need to show the whole thing, but we get a shift to Lex Luthor, a returning Jesse Eisenberg, which he's there, and he's already escaped from Arkham, and he's on his yacht. We get to meet Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, played by Joe Manganiello.
Mm-hmm.
And they discuss the plans to get to Batman, and Lex reveals to Slade that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Setting up the Batman movie.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he's like, let's just say it's personal, and and then now he's really interested.
Yep.
And this would have set up the Batman movie, Ben Affleck's
Yes,
The
it
Batman
would.
movie from Chris Terrio, written by
Yep.
Chris Terrio and him. So, great Easter egg, pretty awesome moment. And then we get a flash forward to the Nightmare timeline again.
Yep.
And now we're actually getting to see it in quote unquote real time. And it's Batman teamed up with Cyborg, Flash, Mara, and Deathstroke. Because in this timeline, Aquaman, Wonder Woman are dead. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Lois are all dead. We see Batman stumbles upon the Joker, a returning Jared Leto.
Yes.
And they have some exchanges that we'll get into there. Taunting, he's taunting Batman and such. They have an exchange about Harley. And then, evil Superman shows up. We don't know what happens next. We don't know what happens next. We get a shift again back to Bruce in his townhouse. And he wakes up from, apparently this is another dream that he wakes up from again. And he's greeted by Martian Manhunter. He warns Bruce the dark side is still coming to Earth. He wants to thank Bruce for his heroic efforts and lets him know that they will stay in touch. Well, I'll be around. Let me know. We're glad to have you around, so to speak. Excuse me. We should note here that this was supposed to be Green Lantern John Stewart.
Yes, it was John Stewart.
It was Wayne T. Carr. Warner Brothers got involved. We have plans, so he just gave it to Harry Lennox, Swanwick, and
yep.
That lets me know that this was a reshoot, if that's the case.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And that's pretty much it. We see Martian Manhunter fly off, and in the closing shot, we get For Autumn, his daughter, and that's it. So normally at this point, we go into our thoughts on the movie. Well, we're going to save that because we have a lot of thoughts on this movie and how we got here. So for right now, we're going to just briefly mention the cast. And let's take a look here. We had Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, Henry Cavill as Clark Kent, Gal Gadot, Diana Prince, Wonder Woman. So Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We have Amy Adams returning as Lois Lane. Ray Fisher as Victor Stone, Cyborg. Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry, Aquaman. Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, The Flash. We have Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Diane Lane as Martha Kent. Connie Nielsen as Queen Hippolyta. Joe Morton as Silas Stone, your boy from Terminator 2.
Oh, yeah.
A returning Harry Lennox as Swanwick / the Martian Manhunter. I didn't talk about him during the movie breakdown here, but we have Zhang Kai as Ryan Choi, the Atom. So another Easter egg from DC.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. We have Willem Dafoe as Volko, Amber Heard as Mara, and if this had come out when it was supposed to, this would have been the first time we met these people as well. We have Syrian Hines as Steppenwolf, did an amazing job. Ray Porter as Darkseid. Jesse Eisenberg.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex. Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke. And the very last person we see, one of the last people we see, is a returning Jared Leto as Joker. Oh, my goodness. I don't know if I could name a top 3 or a top in this movie. I will say this. I loved Gal in this movie. Gal was awesome in this movie. We got to see so many different sides of her. I love Ben in this movie. It was such an evolution of the character of Batman. Just a newfound hope, so to speak. And so many soft moments. I mean, I guess I got to mention the heart of the movie, Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher, baby.
Ray Fisher. And then, just because I'm a Batman mark, I got to mention the Jared Leto Joker part at the very end. So
fun.
Were there any standout roles or characters for you in this movie? Just off the top of your head, top 3, so to speak?
Yeah, for immediately Ray Fisher, because what I loved about Ray Fisher was I was unfamiliar with him prior to this movie. So he's in a movie with Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, Henry Cavill as Superman, Gal as Wonder Woman, and these are characters that we've seen. These are characters that we know, and we're getting Ray Fisher for the first time as Victor Stone. in live action Cyborg, which we haven't gotten before. So there's a lot of pressure there. And I loved his performance because I felt like with Ben Affleck's performance as Bruce, where there's an evolution, there's a growth. We see evolution and growth with Ray Fisher's character Victor
Right.
as well, from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, and he knows how to play those tragic moments, those angry moments, those somber moments. One of my favorite scenes in the movie. Well, it's so sad, but when his father dies in the film, there's a moment where he's just got his head down and he's kind of walking in a limp, and you just see a single teardrop just fall from his eye, and you can hear the pain in Victor's voice because of Ray's performance. And it was just so raw, and I remember watching, I said, man, that feels so raw. That was the word I kept using, was it's a raw performance. So Ray Fisher stands out immediately. Ben Affleck as Batman is another standout always, because
So good.
he's an amazing Batman. But what I love about this, and we talked about it before, his performance in Batman v Superman is a different performance from Zack Snyder's Justice League,
Right.
because there's an evolutionary growth of the character, which we always knew we were going to get to. So that was great. And Gal, every time Gal plays Diana, she gets better and better and
Right.
better, and she gets more in tune with the character. And like you said, I just feel that love coming through her performance. She can bring it when she's in those tough warrior scenes. When she was throwing down with Steppenwolf, I'm like, yo, I'm like, she's the man. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it's Diana. But she can have those really soft moments too, and I love that. There's a lot of great performances in here, but those are probably like the first three that come to mind.
Yeah.
But I can give praise to almost everybody in here. Like Ray
Absolutely.
Porter as Darkseid. I'm so
Wow.
happy. I'm so happy that we got to have Darkseid in the film, because we almost didn't. So to have Ray Porter give a wonderful performance was great. And he also makes a cameo in the movie. He's when the humans are creating a box for the mother box to bury. He's one of the blacksmiths.
Oh,
And I
there we
thought that
go.
was really cool that Zack Snyder put him in there too. And I was like,
I
hey,
like
that's
that.
a Ray Porter cameo. So yeah, those are probably the first names that come to mind.
Absolutely. So we'll save our other thoughts as far as the cast and the movie goes for later here. But let's get into some of our standout lines. Oh, there's so many. Let's try to get through this here.
So many.
So in the beginning here, we have Steppenwolf. Just introduction to him against the Amazons. Defenders, they have failed 100,000 worlds. They always fail. I have come to enlighten you to the great darkness. I will bathe in your fear. Hippolyta, daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear. We have no fear. Amazing.
That was one that obviously I talked about earlier, but it's such a good scene because again, they're such warriors.
Right.
And look, I'm a girl dad. You know this. I've got 2 daughters.
Yep.
And I watched that scene and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for my girls to watch this when they get older. I just love it.
It's good stuff. When we're seeing the strained relationship between Victor and Silas, Victor drops this line, you know a lot about monsters, don't you? Especially how to make them. So he's seeing himself as a monster. Pretty impactful line. When Steppenwolf is speaking to Dceu or Darkseid, I don't know. I remember who he's speaking to, but I remember he dropped this epic line that they made it in the trailer. He said, "No protectors here, no lanterns, no Kryptonian. This world will fall like all the others."
It shows you the significance of how important it was to not have those type of characters around.
Correct.
There's no lanterns, the protectors of the universe, and there is no Kryptonian. And I love that. And it's almost as if the mother box is new, because they mentioned in the movie that the mother box waited. There have been events that have happened and they've never been triggered, but they waited for that Kryptonian to fall. And they were like, okay, now we can activate.
Right.
And that's a really powerful line.
Right. They knew Superman was there, and they knew the powers that a Kryptonian would have on Earth. This is the knowledge of Apocalypse, but and the mother boxes, so to speak. So great line. Silas Stone, when he's explaining Cyborg's powers to him, he says, "In a world of ones and zeros, you are the absolute master. No firewall can stop you. No encryption can defy you. We're all at your mercy, Vic." Just power.
That last one, we're all at your mercy. If Victor wanted to go rogue, the amount of damage he could do, because I think people sometimes underestimate how powerful Cyborg is, especially in today's day and age where technology is everywhere. Technology is everything. He has the power to do so much, and that line really drives it home.
Absolutely. There's a moment between Steppenwolf and Wonder Woman during one of their showdowns, and he tells the parademons, "This one will be mine," and Wonder Woman says, "I belong to no one." Just really powerful.
Good stuff,
I
man.
love Gal in this movie.
I love it, and I love the way she's written in these films. She's like, I
Yeah,
belong to no one, and it's
yeah,
just I don't know. It's short, right to the point, and it makes a statement.
right. And at this point, it would have been her third appearance, and she
Mhm.
filmed all these movies back to back to back. Batman
Yeah,
v Superman, Wonder Woman 2017, Zack Snyder's Justice League, back to back to back. She filmed all of them back to back. Um, I'm gonna do this line here. I'll be Barry and you be Cyborg. It's
yeah, it's a fun line.
it's when they're digging up, exhuming his body. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Uh, so I'm Barry. Wonder Woman. What do you think, man? Do you think she'd go for a younger guy?
She's 5,000 years old, Barry. Every guy's a younger guy.
Boom. Just
It's
talk some sense into him.
it's so funny because Barry, like, I love in that scene too, where Barry even says, "You know, I could dig this up in like a nanosecond, right?"
Yeah.
But Victor's like, "What we're doing is heavy, and we need to take that all in. With every dig, we have to understand the decision that we're making right now. Everything." So Barry's trying to make this joke, and he's like, "Just for every guy's a younger guy, Barry." Like it's just like bringing him down a little bit. I love that. I love that little conversation between the two.
There's one line in here in particular for this next section that I enjoy, but I felt the whole section deserved to be recited. So, Ricardo, you're going to be Bruce Wayne, and I'm going to be Alfred in this next exchange here.
All right. So this is where Alfred is fixing the bat plane.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I'll start. Excuse me. Any luck?
If by luck you mean chance in hell we'll get it flying today, then no luck.
That's okay. Doesn't matter. We're just going to take the body of the Kryptonian ship. It's basically an organic computer. It can talk directly to the mother box.
What? The way it talked to Lex Luthor?
Something like that.
Huh. What could possibly go wrong? Master Wayne, you did it. You put the team together to fight this war. You fulfilled your promise. But to try to do that, I mean, your guilt's overcome your reason. Not all the kings, nor the horses, nor all the king's men could.
Alfred, for once I'm operating strictly on faith, not on reason.
But if you start playing with this little box of tricks, I mean, it could be the end of everything. How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at it.
You do when it's this red cape. This red cape charges back.
Great interaction. We do get a call back to that line later on, but just Alfred, for once, I'm operating strictly on faith, not on reason.
That is so significant for Batman to
Right.
say this, right? For Batman, for Bruce's character, for him to say he's operating strictly on faith, a man who relies on data and information and knowing what he needs to know about everyone and everything. For him to operate strictly on faith says a lot about where he is right now, and it's such a good thing. And I love that Alfred's like, and Alfred brings up the guilt. He goes, "You're letting this guilt push you to make this decision." I love that the guilt came back into play. And he's like, "You don't wave the red cape." And he goes, "You do when it's this red cape. This red cape charges back." And it's so good.
There's an interaction in the middle of the movie here where Flash says to Batman, "I'm sorry, you have a satellite?" Batman says, "I have 6." This
I
is
have 6.
Yeah, this is a direct comic book reference
Mhm.
of Batman just having a contingency plan for everything.
Yes.
And it's in a way referencing where he had a contingency plan for the Justice League, just in case any of them wanted to go rogue, including Superman. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And let's see here. I'm gonna just go through this whole section here. It's short enough.
Do it up.
Barry Allen. Okay, so if Victor wants to save the world by fusing the Doom boxes, I say we put him in the Doom boxes. By getting him in means attacking that base. Arthur. Fighting the devil and his army in hell. Barry. I mean, this guy's probably fought hundreds of thousands of other super beings on the other planets he's destroyed, right? And we have to assume he's won. Bruce. I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us. Not us united.
Not us united.
Woo.
That is that I it's so good because you can use this in the movie. You can use this in any way of life. Like, they've never fought us, not us united. If we're united, we can do so much. And I thought that was really cool. And Bruce is not, hey, he's not stepping down. He's like, look, I don't care. I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us, not us united.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you like this line so much, I'll let you be Bruce and I'll be Alfred again.
Where is that? Oh, okay. He'll be here, Alfred. I know it.
What makes you so sure?
Faith, Alfred. Faith.
Real short, just really
love
short
it.
to the point. And he's going and he's walking on the ship as he's saying it. You know, it's really cool.
And you have the uplifting score starting to hit, and he's on there. And I love that he legitimately like kind of puts his arms out. Like, it's like his body language is letting Alfred know that it's such a simple answer. Why ask? You know, he goes, how do you know? He's like, faith, Alfred. Faith. And again, bring it. It's so it's almost odd to hear Bruce reference faith. Again, this guy has multiple satellites for contingency plans for everything and everyone. And in this moment, for Superman, he's operating solely on faith. And I love it.
This is probably my favorite line exchange in the whole movie, just favorite line, so to speak. But I want to hear you say it because I know how much you enjoy it as well. And I just want to enjoy it. This is the Flash realizing he has to turn back time.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot of actions in there. I know you know how to read around those. So
yeah.
Whenever you're ready, Ricardo.
All right. No. Okay. Just got to go faster than the speed of light, far beyond the speed of light. Got to break the rule, Barry, and you got to do it now. Dad, whatever happens, I want you to know your kid was one of them, Dad. One of the best of the best. Make your own future. Make your own past. It's all right now.
Choked up every time. Every time I see that moment.
It's so good because he's just like, honestly, he's not even sure this is going to work, right? So like in those final moments, he's like, Dad, whatever happens, I just want you to know. Like, I want you to know your kid was one of them. You were one of the best of the best. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, you make your own future, you make your own past. You got to do it, and it's all right now. And it's just, it just, again, with the scene itself, with the special effects, with the music. I've listened to that score from that specific scene so many times. And I listen to it while working out, and it keeps me motivated. But that scene and that dialogue of him just like, and it's almost calming to a degree, right? Because obviously the way he kind of glides through the Speed Force, and he even closes his eyes for a second as he's kind of saying this to himself, as if like, if this is the last thing I can say to my dad, this is it. And it's really, really, really heartfelt and good.
And as you said before, that's the Oscars cheer moment from 2022. Yeah. You know, This came out in 2021 and 2022. The fans voted for it. It's a very brief line, but they're trying to manipulate Cyborg, the mother boxes, and of, you know, the mother saying to him he's broken, and, you know, the father saying you're alone. It's a dream type deal. And Cyborg just says, I'm not broken and I'm not alone.
This is my favorite line in the whole movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is because again, it's one of those things that I feel that many people can relate to in any aspect of their life. It's like, I am not broken and I am not alone.
Yeah.
And the way he delivered it is so good, because he does, it's there's almost like a sadness. Like, it's, again, he's like, I'm not broken. And then when he says, I'm not alone, there's strength in it. And he goes, and I'm not alone. And like, there's this strength to what he's saying. He's not alone anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he was never alone. He's not alone now. And it's such a powerful scene because, again, I feel like it speaks to many people outside this movie when they're down, when they feel alone, if they feel broken. It's like, yo, you're not alone and you're not broken. And I thought that it's arguably one of my favorite line of the movie.
Yeah. So this next exchange is going to be the last one we're going to mention here. Once again, I could have just condensed this, but I wanted the entire interaction to be put out there. I'm going to be the Joker, and Ricardo's going to be Batman. and
Ooh.
this is gonna be fun. Man, do I really feel like bleeping again here? So
Whatever happens, happens, y'all. Whatever
yeah,
happens,
I guess I'll have to
happens.
do it again. It didn't take that long, so yeah, let's
Yeah.
just go for it. So they're in the Nightmare timeline with the new league, so to speak, and the Nightmare League. And Mara says to Batman, "Who have you ever loved?" And now here we have the Joker. Au contraire, my little fish stick. He knows exactly what it's like to lose someone he loves. Like, like a father, like a mother,
Be very careful with the next thing you say.
like an adopted son. Isn't that right, Batman? Maybe in a way that smelly old flounder is right. Because how many can die in your arms before you grow numb to death?
It's not very careful.
And how many dead eyes can you look into before you die inside yourself?
I've been dead inside a long time, but even I have a limit. And if you cross that line, I swear to God, I will.
Before what, Bruce? Kill me? You won't kill me. I'm your best friend. Besides, who's going to give you a reach around? Anyway, you need me. You need me to help you undo this world you created by letting her die. Poor Lois, how she suffered so. I often wonder how many alternate timelines do you destroy the world because, frankly, you don't have the cojones to die yourself. So, as usual, I'll be the bigger man. Pulls out the Joker card. A truce, Bruce. As long as you have this card, a truce. But all you have to do is tear it in half, and I'm happy to discuss with you in any way you like why you sent a boy wonder to do a man's job.
You know, it's funny that you would talk about people who died in my arms. Because when I held Harley Quinn and she was bleeding and dying, she begged me with her last breath that when I killed you, and make no mistake, I will kill you, that I do it slow. I'm going to honor that promise.
Oh, you're good. You almost had me.
Maybe this will come in handy.
Honor? Really, Bruce? Honor? We live in a society where honor is a distant memory. By the way, who do you think screamed the loudest? The girl or the boy? End scene.
That whole scene, man.
So that in that sequence alone, I wanted an entire movie. I wanted a Batman
Yep.
movie, Gotham City, Joker. There's so much to unpack there. He discusses how he killed Robin. At this
Yep.
point, we know he's the one that killed Robin. Zack has specified it's Dick Grayson. It's not Jason Todd, who everyone thought. Talks about Lois dying.
Yeah.
Batman
Alternate timelines. We're
Yeah.
talking about multiple
Wild.
timelines from the Joker. You know what I mean?
Wild.
It was
He's talking to Joker about Harley dying. At this point, we would have already seen that they had a bad relationship anyway, a toxic relationship. So, but I promised her that I would kill you, so that shows you how far their relationship had fallen apart. Such a great moment. And it was almost a redemption for Jared Leto's Joker because we never got to see the air cut of the Suicide
No.
Squad. It was a studio cut.
No. Yeah.
And the studio cut just used him in a way that they framed it in a way where it wasn't Ayer's vision. And in a way, I feel like Leto kind of was able to redeem himself in this moment here. He's got a new look, long hair, and
the damage tattoo is gone. If
Yeah.
you notice, that tattoo is gone. The grills are different because it's obviously, it's almost like the paint covered the teeth as well. You can't really see the teeth as grills anymore. I felt bad because as you mentioned, like and Leto had to do reshoots for the studio cut of Suicide Squad. So like not only did they frame certain things, but he had to reshoot things differently.
Right.
And that was unfortunate. So we got to see something here that was almost a little it was almost like it was almost pulled back from the performance we saw in the studio cut of
Wasn't
Suicide
as over the
Squad.
top,
It
right?
wasn't as over the top. It was very, he doesn't even leave the hood of the car. He just sits on the car the entire time. He barely even gives Bruce any eye contact until he really wants to hurt Bruce.
Right.
And there's that moment, and it's just, his words are slower. He's more methodic with what he's saying. And I love the sequence. And like you said, and I know Zach has mentioned it, that he put that scene in there because he wanted to give the fans an opportunity to have that Joker and that Batman
Right.
in case it never happened. And I'm so grateful for it. But that exchange of dialogue was so good. And again, it lets us know, I feel so bad for Bruce because in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we see Bruce has this great arc of faith. And now the Nightmare timeline exists. And now he's at his wit's end again. He's like, man, we're fighting for our lives here. You know what I mean? So when he tells Joker, like, make no mistake, I am going to effing kill you. And when I do it, I'm going to do it slow. And I love Joker's reaction where you kind of see that it almost bothered him.
Right.
That Bruce got to, I mean, you see his hand. I remember you see Joker's hand start to shake a little bit. And then he does the, oh, you almost had me. And it's such a good moment because it was like, it's one of the few times that we got to see in live action where Batman is getting under the skin of the Joker in return.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool.
And in the final cut of the movie, that line about "we live in a society" that didn't make it in, but it was in the trailer, so I did include it. Apparently, it would have closed the scene out when Bruce takes the card from him. We live in a society where honor is a distant memory. Apparently, "we live in a society" was a line by the fans created, attached to Joker 2019.
Yep.
And so I don't know if that was an ad lib from Jared or if Zach wrote it, but we saw it in a trailer. We didn't get to see it in the movie, but I thought I would include it there. We have talked about this movie for a while now, and you know, we're gonna however long we take here, we're just gonna go within reason.
Yep.
And we've talked so much about the movie. There's so much to unpack. I mean, before we get into it, is this the best DCEU movie to you?
It's so crazy, right? Because obviously, you know how much I love Man of Steel. I think
Right.
Man of Steel it's one of those things where, like, as a standalone, it's like Man of Steel. Like it's incredible. It's everything. But I think that for the DCEU, in terms of scale, epicness, just everything that's happening in this movie, it's a 4-hour movie that
Right.
never lost my attention once, that never lost me for a second. Every character is given an amazing amount of time, because even in my favorite movies, there can be times you go, oh, I wish this character had a little bit more time to do this. I wish it was a little more fleshed out. This movie felt like everything was fleshed out. Amazing action piece. I love the section breaks. I love the part 1, part 2, part 3. I've actually been able to convince people who said, oh, it's 4 hours, I can't sit through it. And I said, well, hey, guess what? You like miniseries, you like network shows and whatnot. I said, this is broken up in parts. You can, and they were like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it tells you. It says part 1, part 2, part 3, and they were able to watch it and get through it. But I think that in the grand scheme of things and scope and everything that this movie set out to accomplish and what it did and more, in the context of the story and what it was teasing for the future, I don't think there's a bigger movie in the DCEU than Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, for me, Man of Steel was always my favorite. It kicked things off, and we had other really good ones, in my opinion. We had ones that I didn't enjoy as much, but I always kept coming back to Man of Steel. As you know, I'm a big Nolan fan, and that felt the most like a Nolan movie. I mean, he was a producer. Him and David Goyer wrote the movie. But after seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League a few times, for me, it's no doubt it's the best DCU movie. It was never released in theaters, but that doesn't matter to me because it's still a part of the DCEU. It's an epic. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, it's Zack Snyder's best movie, in my opinion. Is this Zack Snyder's best movie, Ricardo?
Is it Zack?
So now,
Ooh,
so now we're looking
ooh,
at Dawn of the Dead. We're looking at
ooh.
300.
I immediately think like when I hear best movie, the first three that come to mind is Zack Snyder's Justice League, Man of Steel, and Watchmen.
Watchmen. There we go.
Those
Okay.
immediately come to mind. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta
Right.
compare it to
It's
those other
hard.
two. And I'm like, I will say it's his biggest film.
Yeah.
Again, Man of Steel works so great because it's a standalone, it's a singular story, and for that I'm like, oh, that might, man, I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to think about it, but I think Zack Snyder's it's his biggest film. But
That's okay.
ooh,
Yeah, it's okay. I will say this, just without even looking at it, I would say probably 300 is
mhm.
probably the most critically acclaimed movie that he's put out. I haven't looked at it.
So good.
Um, and it depends on who you talk to. Some
Mhm.
people would say Watchmen. Um, for me, I think it's this movie.
It's so big,
I'm
man. It's
okay with saying
great.
Zack Snyder's just because of um, the scope, the scale, how we got here and such. Um, time and time again, we see, Man of Steel, BVS, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Zack Snyder's The Blueprint, time and time again, because we see things pulled from each of these movies used later on.
Mhm.
Just that fight alone in Man of Steel. Um, we saw that recreated for the Supergirl TV show, for
Yeah.
the Superman and Lois show. We
Mhm.
saw it in Shazam. We
Mhm.
saw it, we saw it time and time again. Um, Batman v Superman. There's, we don't want to get into things with the MCU and such, but you know, it mirrored Civil War a lot. You
Yeah,
know,
and if you wanna do a deep cut, we can do a deep cut, and this is not shade. The Russo brothers confirmed that originally
there we go.
it wasn't going to be Civil War. That wasn't the movie that they were intended to make, and they were actually
Right,
quite nervous when the studio decided, "Hey, we gotta switch things up. That Batman v Superman, that they're doing something crazy. We got to do
right,
something." So they were kind of worried about like, well, how's it going to work with contracts and getting all these actors on board? But they were able to make it happen. But yeah, it's kind of hard to watch those two movies and not see a lot of mirror images
right,
and recreation of stories and whatnot.
right. And then, whoever got wind of the time travel story, that's the biggest point of Endgame is time
Yeah,
travel.
time travel.
So and we're not throwing any shade to Marvel
No.
Studios in doing this,
No.
because competition has been going on for years,
Mhm.
between movie studios, between companies and such. And Kevin Feige has admitted to certain things here and there. Um, he didn't want to make a solo superhero woman movie until he saw the success of Wonder Woman, and
Mhm.
that's Captain Marvel got birthed that way. And so who's to say someone didn't find out about the plot of BVS? Because, well, actually, no, you said the Russos confirmed after they found out about
Yeah.
BVS that they went and moved forward with, um, with Captain America: Civil War. And then who's to say who didn't get wind of Zack Snyder's Justice League because his cut was floating around, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and perhaps that got some elements got pulled for Endgame and for Infinity War. We don't know,
Yeah.
So just a couple little tidbits there, and um, I don't want to go into it, but I feel like I've seen other things and other superhero movies that were pulled,
There's a
that could
lot.
have.
There's a lot. And I like when, again, I like when directors say it, and oh my god, I'm so upset that I'm gonna have to look her name up. But the director of The Eternals said that she took a lot of inspiration from Zack Snyder
Yeah,
and his Justice
yeah.
League.
Oh,
And
Chloe
I thought that
Zhao.
was,
There we go.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
She
you're
actually
right.
mentioned it in an interview,
That's the person I wanted to mention. Yes.
and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool that she put it out there." And was like, "Yeah, like I actually want to take a lot from what Zack Snyder had done in that." And I thought that was really, really cool for her to do that.
There we go. So without throwing any shade to Endgame or Infinity War or Endgame, Chloe Zhao actually confirmed that Zack Snyder's Justice League inspired her for
Mhm.
Eternals.
Yeah.
So, whether or not you want to drop Zack Snyder's The Blueprint and all these references, I'll leave that up to you. We only say that as fan service. We're not,
Yeah, it's fun. It's just fun. It's
yeah,
like,
we're
yeah,
not throwing
yeah,
shade at other people or anything like that. It's just fun to say. So,
yeah,
um, oh man, there's so much to go into, and we could be here for hours, but we're going to
yeah,
be as
yeah,
brief as
yeah.
we can.
Yep.
On November 17th of 2017, the studio cut of Justice League gets released,
Mhm.
and it's 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 a divided fan base. It's very the critical acclaim isn't there. The box office isn't as large as they want it to be. We found out Joss Whedon while he didn't get directorial credits, we found out he reshot 3/4 of the movie.
It was a
and,
lot.
and in some cases, some people that actually saw both said it was 90% of the movie.
It was a lot.
And the fans got wind of this, and the hashtag release the Snyder Cut was born as early as that weekend. For 2 straight years, this hashtag's floating around on Twitter. And we get to November 17th, 2019. And this is the one date where they really plan for it to go hardcore. And it's 2 years after the release of the studio cut. Release the Snyder Cut ends up getting tweeted close to 1 million times. And for this one, people that we haven't seen joined in. Ben Affleck joined. Gal Gadot joined. Jason Momoa joined. Ezra Miller didn't have any social media at the time, and I don't recall if Cyborg joined in, Ray Fisher. Henry Cavill didn't say anything because he was still hoping he would have a job one day. And he didn't want this, politics-wise, he didn't want this to be seen as him going against the studio. Everyone else is set, and they're set with their careers and such. They're fine, but he wasn't sure if he was going to get asked to come back again. So he remained quiet. A few months pass. We fast forward to May 20th of 2020. And it was during a watch along for, I don't remember, was it BVS or Man of Steel?
I think it was Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I think that was the rewatch.
Yeah. At the very end, Henry Cavill shows up, and they announce that the Snyder Cut is real. Well, Zack's been saying the Snyder Cut is real for years.
Yeah,
now he's letting the world know, by the way, we just finally got approval from Warner Brothers. The Snyder Cut is coming, and it was announced for HBO Max in 2021. This happened in 2020. And a world situation happened in 2020 that possibly aided in this. We don't know. But eventually, 1 year later, Zack Snyder's Justice League is released on March 25th of 2021 on HBO Max streaming service. And on that day, Restore the SnyderVerse gets 1 million tweets. Hashtag Restore the SnyderVerse. People were so excited to finally see the cut that had been so elusive that people were saying didn't exist for years. And Zack was always letting us know, no, it's real. It's real. It's very real. And we don't want to split hairs of, well, the movie wasn't finished yet. It's like, well, you don't get to backpedal now and say that, well, that's not what we went. No, you were saying it wasn't real. And to me, not real means it doesn't exist at all.
I had so much fun.
Yeah.
being a little petty with certain individuals. And look, it was never about people that were being very civil about things. That was never an issue, but it was always people that they had a pretty loud voice online. Right. They had a pretty large community, and they would say, guys, listen, this is never gonna happen. Right. This is never gonna happen. You gotta get over it. And it was just like, I don't know. Let's just keep the hope alive. See what happens. You know what I mean? We can do it respectfully. Let's just, let's see what happens. And one thing led to another, and Warner Brothers had HBO Max, and I'm sure they definitely wanted to take advantage of that subscriber count to initial boot it up, and saw a large vocal audience, and somehow it all came to pass. And like you said, when you mentioned Ben Affleck and everyone else, like that's when the game changed. When they dropped in, I was like, oh, it's real now.
And Zack had a raw cut of the movie that he'd shown to select people. It didn't have finished effects, obviously. So, things just fell into place. I think maybe, because of everything getting shut down in 2020, maybe that had part to do with it. Warner Brothers was grasping at straws. They said, well, we need people to watch HBO Max. It's not going to be as expensive to release it in the theaters. We'll give Zack the budget to finish it, and he still had to talk to them about certain things here and there, but he was able to finish it. He did the reshoots in his driveway, and that was pretty cool as well. I remember while all of this was going on, in the beginning, he sent out a tweet. It was, is it real? Of course it is. It was a Vero, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, of
So
course it is. He would show the reel. He would show it in the can. You
yeah,
know, it was, and ironically, it was only 214 minutes. So
right,
it was a little bit shorter than what we got. But once he got the green light to, put all the deleted scenes that he had cut, he said, "Oh, I can put the whole thing in there. Oh, let's do that. Oh, we're gonna shoot in my driveway." And I got to give major props to Ben Affleck, Joe Manganiello, Jared Leto,
right,
Amber Heard, Ray Fisher, Ezra Miller, like everyone who said, "Hey, you're doing reshoots, we're there."
right.
Like we're there.
Well,
Like
Ezra couldn't. So Ezra
nope.
did like a CGI with the
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
Yeah.
He did
So
a zoom so they can get his face, and then they
right,
got it on the actor's body. But I thought it was so cool that they were willing to go that gorilla. You know what I mean? Where Ben and Joe are legitimately in a driveway. Wayne T. Carr as well was like Zach still fought for that scene. Like he
right,
still fought for it. Even after they said no, he still was like, I'm going to shoot this. I want to fight for this as hard as I can do this. And unfortunately they were like, hey, if we're gonna pull it completely if you do this. So he had to like back down, but he made sure that he still got to put someone there, and he put Swanwick and Harry Lennox as Martian
right,
Manhunter.
right. And we saw the that HD screenshot of Wayne T. Carr as John Stewart. That it was after the fact.
Unbelievable look,
After the
man.
fact, after the fact. So, um, and we're gonna get to restore the Snyderverse in a second here, but there was just so much in this movie that wasn't in the studio to cover the movie that we
Hmm.
missed out on. We missed out on Victor's parents, just that whole backstory. We saw Silas. We didn't see his mom. We didn't see Iris West. We didn't see. Let you get to the second. Ryan Choi, the Atom. Um, we didn't see. There was less footage of Volko and Mara. There was. We had zero footage of Darkseid and Apocalypse. Like
Hmm.
it was a completely different movie, in my opinion, and in the
Completely
opinion
different.
of many people. Both cuts of the movie completely different. Um, and I'm sorry. Please go ahead. As far as
Oh, no, no. Yeah, it was astounding how different it was, and it was crazy because, again, the heart of the film, Zack Snyder has said it, and I
yeah,
agree, that Ray Fisher as Cyborg is the heart of the film, and it was so wild how different, how little he was given in the studio release
right,
as opposed to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and you got to see that Zack really cared about making sure that not just Cyborg, but all these characters had
right,
room to really breathe. Like I could see people walking away from the studio cut and not being blown away by Cyborg. I could see that because the studio cut didn't really give him much,
right,
and Zack Snyder's Justice League, you got to see so much more. Again, Dark Side wasn't in the studio cut whatsoever. There was a really weird approach with Steppenwolf. It was really weird, the stuff that the choices that they made for the studio cut.
right,
But all in all, like it's astounding how different these movies are. And
right,
it makes sense because one is from the mind of Zack Snyder and one was from the mind of the studio. And they were two completely different things. And I'm forever grateful that we got Zack Snyder's Justice League. And we talked about this. Like I said, hey, if we get any more, that's a cherry on top, but this is the win.
right.
Like if we get this movie, that's the win. And I'm always going to be hopeful for more, obviously, and we'll talk about that. But I'm forever grateful we got this. But it's night and day. Like I don't think I
Right,
could ever go back and essentially even try to watch the studio cut because it's so vastly different.
right.
And this one, Zack Snyder Justice League excels in every department where the studio cut failed, and for obvious reasons. You got a bunch of guys and people in suits that are trying to make these decisions when you took a visionary out of the chair, and this is what you get for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it was just such a victory to finally see it. And we gotta. It's sad how we got here. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
um, for those of you that don't know, when Justice League wrapped filming, Zach, unfortunately, suffered a loss in his life. It was one of his adoptive daughters, Autumn. It was a mental health situation, and she lost her life. And uh, he had already concluded filming. Behind the scenes, which I'm not going to name any of these people because I don't feel they deserve to be named anymore, but there was a lot of people working that, well, they were going to work with Zack to have possible reshoots or to redo the movie because they didn't like the direction of the movie that was going to go into. It wasn't going to be a 4-hour cut. It was going to be 2 hours and 17 minutes, you know? And rather than stay and fight with the studio, him and his wife, Deborah, who's a producer, they said, you know what? We're just going to back away and we'll let the studio do what they need to do. And there was a rumor that he handpicked Joss Whedon. That's a false rumor. That's a lie. But he had a little bit of a hand in just, okay, you guys do what you need to do. So they kind of backed away, and the studio saw this as a chance for them to redo the movie in their eyes, and they wanted a completely different look. And they went ahead and got Joss Whedon, the man that directed Avengers and Avengers: Age of Ultron, and you know, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. It's almost like they just wanted to mimic Marvel Studios because they wanted to do something that didn't have Zack's look. You know, like the quote unquote Snyderverse, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and so on and so forth. So what they ended up doing was they ended up just pretty much almost reshooting almost an entire movie. You know, I said it before, almost depends on who you talk to. 75% of the movie got reshot. Somebody that actually worked on the movie said he felt 90% of the movie got reshot. And it's unfortunate that it happened that way. And the worst nightmare came true for the studios. The fans found out about it and they started rallying that they wanted to see Zack's cut. And that happened for years and years and years. And finally they buckled. And if not for the world situation happening with everything getting shut down, we may not have seen it, but we did get to see it. And he closes the movie by saying "For Autumn." So many great things happened because of this movie too, because there was suicide awareness. People donated. I saw a number, $500,000.
A lot of money was raised
Yeah.
for that organization, and it was really powerful, and Zack had been very open about it, and I loved watching him say, he looked directly at his camera to all the fans and goes, "This movement saved lives."
Yeah.
And it was very, very touching because, you know, he had suffered a great loss, and no one should have to endure that type of a loss. And for the fans to rally together and to do something so positive,
Right.
for Zack, for his family, for the movie, it was really, really, really sweet to see.
Yeah. And, you know, when we look at things that way, it's, you know, movie studios are movie studios. It's not show friends, it's show business. And, you know, everything's about money. It's about profit and such. But I feel like in a way that Zack and Deborah were treated less than human in that moment. That it almost comes off like the studio took advantage of their daughter's death so they could remake the movie in a way that they want to make it. And maybe I'm being too bold by saying that, but that's how it comes off. And you know, because if that didn't happen, then Zack would have been around to kind of fight them on all these different things that they wanted to do. You know, and I mean, it goes without saying, Joss didn't just reshoot the movie. He rewrote almost the whole movie, you know?
It's you can feel it. I remember there was a couple scenes in the movie where I was like, man, this doesn't feel
right.
This doesn't feel like Zack's work, because I was under the impression, again, I was being very hopeful. I was like, okay, yeah, he's gonna go in there and just, you know, do some reshoots.
Right.
It's not gonna be this, and I started to get worried when God rest his soul, John Schnepp,
Yeah.
on Collider Hero Talk, he mentioned, he goes, no, I'm being told that it was around 90%. And I
Yeah.
remember hearing that number. I think he said 90, but no, he said a very high number.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of like having a sinking feeling. I was like, oh God, please, I hope that's not true. And then watching the studio cut being like, oh, this something doesn't feel right. The writing is off. Zack wouldn't incorporate these type of jokes. We're not gonna do that scene with Wonder Woman with Zack. I was like, there's
Right.
no
With
way.
the flash falling on her. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And
I
by
was
the way,
like,
that
we're
was
not.
right. And by the way, Gal said, no, I'm not doing that. So they used a
She
body double.
refused. They
Yeah.
used a body double, and
Yeah.
it was like, and I just kept seeing scenes like that. I'm like, this isn't, Zack wouldn't do this. So it was very uncomfortable watching it. And then, like you said, as bold as it may feel to say, like, it's kind of hard for us not to feel that way.
Right.
That a very horrific situation happened, and the studio was like, oh man, that sucks. But wait a minute, that means he's busy. What? All right, let's change the movie. And that's very cold. And
Right.
obviously studios, uh, people in business suits and whatnot, executives, like Hollywood can be that way.
Right.
It can be that way.
And let's be clear here. Reshoots happen for every movie.
Every single
But
movie.
they didn't just reshoot the movie, they redid the whole thing.
Yep. They
They
did the
remade
whole
the entire movie in their own image, you know?
if
And,
you some of the green screen is so bad because you can tell the actors aren't in the same room.
right.
They're just
And,
not there.
that's, you know, the infamous Henry Cavill mustache face. He was
Mm.
shooting Mission Impossible.
Yep.
He couldn't shave. So guess what? They had to CGI his face,
Yep.
and his face looks awful in these scenes.
How do you make Henry Cavill ugly? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like one of the most handsome men on the planet.
Right.
You
But you
made
could-
him ugly.
You know, you could just see, we saw this movie together. We've seen, you know, a lot of DC movies together, but I didn't know until now that we've seen every Zack Snyder superhero movie together, but we've also seen every Zack Snyder movie in the theater. Was there one you hadn't seen in the theater?
I think the only one, oh God, was there a Zack Snyder? I
Sucker
saw
Punch?
Yeah, that was one I missed in theater. That was
Oh,
one.
okay.
Everything else I'd seen, I missed Sucker Punch. That one was, it just fell through the cracks. It was
It's
one
fine.
of those.
Yeah, so but once these DC movies came along, we'd seen all of them together. And
Yes.
I remember the car ride home, and in the car, the people in the car, it was almost like how everybody else was reacting.
Yeah.
Some people were positive because they were kind of in denial about it. Some people were like, "Oh, I don't know about that." That was me. You know, we were talking about ranking all of them, and my ranking was like kind of near the bottom. I was like, I feel bad. It's a Justice League movie. I've been waiting for this moment my entire life. I'm a huge fan of the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited animated, the comic books, the whole deal. And then I just saw that, and it didn't feel like Zack to me, and it didn't feel like the universe they were building. So, you know, you were kind of in the middle of the situation. You were kind of torn.
It was one because I remember just being like, hey, I got to see the Justice League.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like that was like, it's why you said it before. Sometimes we have to take a minute after we watch a movie.
Recency bias.
Recency bias. And one of the funniest things, and I've done it and I've seen it on social media. I've seen people pull up their own old tweets from when they seen that movie and they go, what was I thinking? It's because we wanted to have that high. We were like, oh man, like again, like we're seeing these characters together for the first time. I didn't really like that part, but this part was really cool. So you know what I mean? So you're given extra credit for things that you really shouldn't. And it's just one of those. And I remember it was funny. There were people that noticed right away because I actually am a mutual on Twitter with the very first person to ever tweet release the Snyder Cut. And he tweeted it on 11/21/2017. So it was very fast after he saw that movie.
Few days
and was just like, and he was like, something's off. And he started I pulled up the tweet. I had to find it. And it was 5:24 in the morning. And he wrote #release the Snyder Cut. And without him, this probably never even would have happened. So bless that man.
And the word got to us within our private text feed that we were texting one another. And we started talking amongst ourselves that we believed there was a cut. And eventually we joined in with this. So we, you know, along with the rest of the fan base for 4 years, we cheered for this moment, and it finally happened.
4 years, man.
Yeah, just 4 years of thinking, will this ever happen? Will this ever happen? And then it finally does happen. Upon release of the Snyder Cut, now the fans are like, well, now we want you to bring Zack back because we want to see you finish the vision. And then we get a #restore the SnyderVerse. And that's been going, you know, this filming. This is March 2023. It's been going on since it came out 2 years prior. I've seen the SnyderVerse in many different iterations. Please chime in here. Like for me, it's I saw Man of Steel, Wonder Woman 2017, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, if we ever get that cut of the movie, Justice League 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll see Ben Affleck's The Batman.
The Batman.
And sometimes you'll see Man of Steel 2 mixed in there sometimes. But, you know, for the most part, the SnyderVerse is, you know, Justice League 1, 2, and 3, Man of Steel, BVS. And then if you want to include Wonder Woman, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, and Ben Affleck's The Batman, you can. But, you know, people want to see Zack finish his vision. And at this point in time, it's probably not going to happen.
Look, Zach is doing his thing, man. Like
Right.
Zach seems genuinely happy. He's got the Army of the Dead universe. He's creating his own IP with Rebel Moon,
Right.
shooting 2 big movies. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I think we all want Zach to be happy, right? Like we want all of our filmmakers to be happy. And if by some miracle they're like, hey, we're going to restore the Snyderverse, then I'm all in. I'm all
Right.
on board. But I said it like I mentioned earlier when Zack Snyder Justice League came out. I said this is the victory. I said if we get more,
Right.
that is incredible. I said, but if we don't, they can never. No one could take this away.
Yeah.
You know, for 4 years we were like, hey man, let's get this out there. Let's make trending events. Let's raise money. Let's raise for donations. Let's do charity work. Let's do everything we can do together. Whatnot. I made a lot of mutual friends through social media because of the support for the Snyder Cut or whatever and whatnot. So it was really, really, really cool. And you know, if they do it, great. It looks less and less likely the more time goes on because you got to factor in not just Zack Snyder, but you got to factor in all the actors. You got to
Right.
factor in their schedules, contracts. Like, how would this work? Would it go? Would they get a theatrical release? Do they want to keep it on streaming?
Right.
Do they just want to say, all right, we'll restore it, but we'll just like close with the Justice League movies and that's it? You know what I
Right.
mean? So there's a lot of variables to take into place. Would I love to see it? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. But as a fan of film, as a fan of filmmakers, I'm a huge fan of Zach. If Zach is happy in a place where he is right now,
Right.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he's got cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. And, more so, the fact that we have James Gunn now and the
Mhm.
DCU and that they're doing kind of a reboot now, it's looking more and more likely that this won't happen.
Yeah,
Um, and that's okay because we got this movie. We got Zack
we got it.
Snyder's Justice League. And, I mean, you never know what could happen in the future. We could get it in a comic book. We could get it in an animated movie. I
Yeah.
know some folks on YouTube, they did Project Justice League,
Mhm.
and I want to give a shout out to them. It's 4 Nerds Network and Project Justice League. They took the storyboard that Zach released and they did a motion, you know, a motion comic
Yeah.
with their own voice actors of what would have Justice League 2 and 3 what would have been. And that's pretty cool that we saw that, but at the end of the day, I've gotten my closure on this situation.
Yeah, and
And
that's what yeah, that's the word. It's
yeah,
closure.
and even just seeing that little Project Justice League thing, it's like, okay, that's what might have happened. It's clear Zach would have done something different. He wouldn't put it
Yeah.
out there to spoil the surprise because of what he had planned later on. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we got this. We got a 4-hour epic and honestly, we wouldn't have gotten this. We would have
No,
only
we
gotten
wouldn't have.
2 hours and 17 minutes if Zach still got this, released his movie. I mean, we would have gotten Justice League 2 and 3 though, but but
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows at this
yeah,
point? Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Ben Affleck's Batman fell through because they didn't want him directing it, and then eventually, we got Matt Reeves to come in, and then that became his own thing. Matt Reeves, the Batman universe, the Reevesverse, so to speak. So a lot of things would have to fall into place. I mean, I don't know. No disrespect on the Justice League movies. Ben Affleck's the Batman is one I want.
Ben Affleck's The Batman was
Yeah,
I remember hearing people who worked on that movie or
yeah,
worked on who read the script and was working with Ben and them just putting over to the moon and then they released that that small oh god, what do you call it? It was
test
concept art and test footage and
test
scene
footage. Yeah,
of a fight between Batman and Deathstroke and it was like oh man and Matt Reeves even mentioned he said that Ben Affleck's Batman felt like a Bond movie with superheroes. Like there was a bunch of like great action sequences and detective work and whatnot. We might have gotten a rogues gallery a little bit, and I'll always wonder. I'll always wonder what the Batman
right,
would have been. Ben Affleck's The Batman, which was the working
right.
title at the time, and things just didn't fall into place and again same thing with Ben. I'm so happy for Ben where he is right now.
Yeah,
Ben seems like he's having fun, he's making movies, he's got a new movie coming out, Get Air, that he's directing. You know what I
exactly.
mean? So I'm happy for him. And look, I'll never forget when Ben Affleck said he was done as Batman and then maybe around a year later was like, oh, I'm coming back in the Flash. And I was like, what? So
Yeah.
like things change. Things change. It's okay
Right.
to be hopeful, but sometimes, a win is a win. I don't know what to say. A
Exactly.
win is a win.
Yeah, and at this point, it would probably be like an Elseworlds type deal.
Yeah.
And James Gunn has said that he wants to do Elseworld stories. So
Mhm.
you know, but once again, business. Everything is a
Yeah.
business. We as fans can want one thing, but the
Mhm.
movie industry is a business, and business wise, it is not smart to look backwards. You want to look
No,
forwards.
no, and James Gunn is
You know,
very much about looking forward, and
right?
we can see that, and I'm sure that he's got a couple tough decisions to make still. I know a lot of people, I myself included, was very hurt we lost Henry Cavill. I was devastated,
Yeah,
but he's not about looking in the past. He's about moving. He's moving
right,
forward. It is
right,
what it is.
right. And after all these years, we finally see Henry back. There was a headless cameo in in Shazam. There
Shazam.
was a shadow cameo in the Peacemaker show,
Mhm.
but a full on Henry Cavill, I'm back at the end of Black Adam. And it's
Yep.
just like, oh, well, what does this mean? Like we may not get
Nothing. It meant
right.
nothing.
Right. We were thinking like, well, Zack's not coming back. Are you going to continue using his actors? Is that what this means?
Mhm.
Because now we knew that Batman was going to be in Flash. There were rumors of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman in several movies
Yeah.
that we can't confirm yet. We don't know because it's not for sure yet. So it was like, well, are we going to bring these actors back or not? It's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot.
lot of variables. It's a lot of variables, and
Yeah.
I think sometimes we can get lost in the sauce a little bit and
Right.
not realize that. Again, I would take it back in a heartbeat. If you tell me we're getting him, I will be overjoyed.
Right.
I said, but I'm at a place where I'm like, hey, like I have to accept the fact that sometimes like I'm not always going to get what I want, but at the
Right.
end of the day, and I keep going back to this so I can drill the point home. Zack Snyder's Justice League was the victory. That's what we
Correct.
wanted. That's what we got. We got it. Just the fact that Zack saw how passionate the fans were was a gift in itself.
Right.
Seeing him get emotionally moved, knowing that him and his wife Deborah could see this outpouring love from a community, from a fan base that not only were saying, "Hey, can we watch a movie?" but actually did really, really good and helpful things. Like just that alone was a victory as well. So there was a lot of things to take away. It was. I'm happy that the cast got to see that. I'm happy that Zack got to see that. His family got to see that. And I feel like it was like the mother box. There was a unity there. There was a
Right.
unity with the fans and Zack. And I feel like it's been a privilege to see Zack's response to it and see Zack, intermingling with fans, jumping on fans' YouTube channels, shooting it up, opening up to them because they've been there for him, and it's beautiful. Look again at the end of that movie, you see the league together, everyone's kind of doing the thing. That's us, you know what I mean? Like we did
Yeah.
it. It was great.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for me, just after finding out about everything that happened with Autumn and what led to the studio cut of Justice League happening, and then the fans rallying and the suicide prevention, and Zack just going on every interview that he can online, doing Zoom interviews with people and talking with people. Like, I gained an appreciation for him as a person. I already
Yeah.
liked him as a director, but now I got to like him as a person. And he's been very open about everything that his family went through. So I know I can speak for you when I say this. This isn't just us loving the movie. It's us.
Mhm.
This wasn't just a movie. This was
Yeah.
a man's life, and we are impacted by what happened in his life, both the sadness, but then the triumph of actually getting to do this movie. And for me, seeing that moment, that for Autumn at the very end, it just gets you. And, you're getting choked up throughout the whole movie, but then he dedicates the whole movie to his daughter. And I did read something. Zach has many adoptive children. He has
Yeah.
several biological children with several different relationships, but he has several adoptive children as well because he believes in adoption, and that's why he connects with Superman so much because Superman was adopted by Martha
Mhm.
Kent and Jonathan Kent. So, uh, Ricardo, uh, we have spent a lot of time talking about this movie. We spent a lot of time talking about release the Snyder Cut and everything Zach's gone through. what would you like to leave our viewers and our listeners with before we get out of here?
Before we get out of here, well, again, I'm very grateful that we got it. I'll always view it as a victory. I think we all got a greater appreciation, like you said, for Zack Snyder, not just as a director, but as a human being. I think the greatest gift that the fans could have given him was what happened. Obviously, again, this was the last movie that he was making when that event happened in his life, that tragic event.
Right.
And the fact that he got to go back and not only release the movie that he wanted to release, but to go on and shoot additional footage and really make it epic. And not even just for himself. He gave us so many
Right.
treats in that
Right.
movie.
And Deborah told him not to watch the movie. I think her and
Who else?
Christopher Nolan, they
Christopher
both
Nolan.
told him don't watch the movie because they knew it would break his heart. And to this day, he
Yep.
hasn't seen it. So.
Yep, and he will never watch that cut. And because again, that movie was the last movie. And what was great is that he mentioned that Autumn was into that stuff.
Yeah.
That she was into that, the kind of geeky stuff that he was into. So knowing that she was into that sort of thing, and again, it was the last project that he was working on when that event happened, and then essentially getting that movie stripped away and taken from him, for him to get it back from fan support and for him to receive all that love was such a beautiful thing. And we kind of gifted each other, right? Like we gifted Zack with the fight to make that movie, just to make our voices heard, to get that movie made, and he gifted us back. Again, he shot additional footage for us. You know what I mean? That scene with Ben Affleck and Jared Leto was for us. He said, I wanted the fans to have an opportunity to see those two together if they never got another chance. I wanted to do that for them. He wanted to give us some great future timeline nightmare sequence stuff in case there was an opportunity to do more. He wanted to leave that door open for us. And I think that was so beautiful and so great. And is as beautiful as the movie is in itself, there's great heroics in it. There's great and powerful moments. I'm not broken and I'm not alone.
Right.
And I think of, someone going through loss and hearing those words themselves and whatnot. And I think there's a lot of things that mirrored in real life along with the film. And I think that we can feel it when we watch it. And then to close the film with For Autumn and play Hallelujah, which is her favorite song, it's just, you can't help but feel like this is more than a movie.
Yeah.
And I know for some people that sounds weird because they're just like, it's a movie, get over it. But the amount of heart and passion and hard work and time that you put into making something like this, and to go through an event like that and then still come back and say, we're gonna make it, we're gonna finish it, and we're gonna do it for her. That's a beautiful sentiment. So I'll always be grateful that we got it. I'll always look at that as a victory. And just like Zack said, when it over, he was like, yo, like, you guys are the Justice League.
Yeah.
I don't care how many demons they fought and how many hells, they've never fought us, not us united. And it's an epic tale for an epic story.
Absolutely. And for me, I was going through a lot of changes in my life at the time, and it was just such a beacon of hope for me to see this movie in my house. And I voxed you right afterward, tears in my eyes and just my voice just shaking, just talking to you, how much this movie meant for me. The one line that broke me was when Barry said, make your own future, make your own past. It's all right now. And for me, that's my favorite line in the whole movie. And once again, just glad that we got this. And I want to go along with what you said. Like, you guys can hope and wish for all these other things, and we're not telling you not to. That's up to you. You have your own voice. Use it. But as far as we're concerned, this was it for us, and we're glad that we got this. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a win, man. That's a win, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty. Well, and by the way, we want to continue supporting Zack because now he's on Netflix.
Yeah,
and he has
support him, man.
He's got this Army of the Dead universe, and he's got the Rebel Moon universe. It looks like he's all in on Netflix for right now, and we'll see if he goes back to studios again. But in the meantime, we're going to do that. And by the way, we're not done with the filmography yet. We still have to do Army of the Dead, so we're going to get to discuss that. And we learned that Ricardo is a big zombie fan. That's his favorite horror
Big
genre.
zombie
So
fan.
that'll be cool too. Folks, that was our discussion on Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max. And up on recently, you were able to up until recently you weren't able to get it in a physical copy, but they eventually released it and on HDX as well.
Yep.
Digital copies and such. So if you haven't seen it yet, please find a way to see this, because if all of you've seen is the studio cut, then you truly haven't seen what this man's vision was,
Yeah.
and what he did. So we do encourage you to do so. So we want to once again thank you for viewing and for listening. If you could please give us a like, a share, and subscribe on YouTube, we would appreciate it. And please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How did you feel about Zack Snyder's Justice League? How did you feel about the Release the Snyder Cut movement and everything that happened for things to fall into place for this movie to happen? Please let us know in the comments below. For Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying thank you for coming to the panel.